to check in with 2 of the 4,000 Brigham and women's nurses who've gone on strike, plus shirtless men. Do we really want to see them? Then we'll end the show with you. Now that Boston's World Cup hosting days are over, what do you hope stays with us? Later bar hours or more? Call or text BPR Live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. President Trump says he will not sign bipartisan legislation designed to lower housing costs. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports Trump is withholding his signature to protest the Senate's failure to pass his sweeping elections bill.
President Trump has pushed Republican leaders to press harder to pass his election overhaul, the Save America Act, but the controversial bill doesn't have the votes to pass. The president made his announcement on the housing bill online and expressed his frustration in an angry post, calling Republicans dumb for allowing what he described as a horrible calamity to happen to the party. The move is likely to increase friction between Trump and Republican lawmakers who have been clamoring for any legislative accomplishment to be able to take back to voters ahead of the midterms. But the bill is still likely to become law automatically over the weekend, unless Trump vetoes it. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
The Trump administration has removed the remaining leadership at the Election Assistance Commission. NPR's Ashley Lopez reports the decision comes just 4 months before the November midterms.
The White House says it has removed the last few commissioners of the Election Assistance Commission. This is an independent agency created in the wake of the 2000 presidential election, a close race plagued by administrative errors. The agency has since helped provide election officials with resources and has collected data about how elections went. The EAC was created to have 4 commissioners. At the beginning of this year, one Republican member abruptly resigned, and now another is also resigning. The agency's 2 Democratic members, however, were removed. Ashley Lopez, NPR News.
The final day of a week-long preliminary hearing in the case of Tyler Robinson is getting underway at this hour. Prosecutors have presented more evidence implicating him in the shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Sean Higgins with member station KUER reports from Salt Lake City.
In the hours after Kirk was shot on the campus of Utah Valley University on September 10th, Robinson exchanged messages with his roommate and romantic partner. The lengthy text exchange between Robinson and Lance Twiggs was read aloud in the courtroom by State Bureau of Investigation agent Brian Davis.
And then Lance replies, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" And Tyler says, "I am, I'm sorry."
In addition to the texts, an edited interview the prosecution conducted with Twiggs was also played. In the footage, he testified that Robinson expressed regret before turning himself in to law enforcement. Robinson has yet to enter a plea to the charges against him. For NPR News, I'm Sean Higgins in Salt Lake City.
Stocks are trading mixed on Wall Street at this hour. The Dow was up 66 points, the Nasdaq down 98. This is NPR News.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Habitat for Humanity is marking the completion of a 2-bedroom condo on Gibbs Street in Worcester, and on July 20th will give a local veteran and his family a path to affordable home ownership. The Worcester Guardian reports that the 991-square-foot condo with 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms is located near shopping, schools, parks, and major highways, and the veteran and his family who will move in are expected to attend the dedication ceremony, along with speakers and supporters of the project. The home is part of Habitat for Humanity's work to expand affordable home ownership opportunities for families and veterans across Greater Worcester and Metro West. The organization serves 42 cities and towns in the region. And fans for the tall ships gathered along the Cape Cod Canal yesterday to watch some of those ships make their way through the canal toward Boston. Tall ships from around the world will spend the week in Boston for Sail 250, celebrating the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. As ships motored through the canal, Wareham's Penny Howard watched with friends and family.
The ships have come through, 5 or 6 of them, and they're beautiful, and we've got the wind and the breeze and the shade. It's a beautiful day to be out here. The crowd is fantastic. Everybody's happy to be here. So that's always a nice bonus. And we've got snacks, so we're going to be here for the duration until they kick us out and tell us to go home.
The ships don't fit, the largest of the ships don't fit in the canal. They'll travel around the Cape. The parade of sail, of course, tomorrow. The ships will be in Boston until next Thursday. Beautiful day to go see them. Cloudy upper 80s today, low 80s tomorrow. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Cy Sims Foundation. Since 1985, supporting advances in science, education, and the arts towards a fairer, more just, and civil society. More information is available at cysimsfoundation.org.
Houston Browdy, I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Thank you. The Attorney General is going to be with us August 11th right here at the library, and we are still waiting on word for a July date for the governor. Hey, Jim.
Hey, and we have fabulous Peruvian music coming up in about 20 minutes to raise your spirits, ahead of which they're going to be playing tomorrow when the Peruvian Tall Ship shows up at the parade. What is it called? The Parade of Sail?
Parade of Sails.
I'm actually
or maybe it's Parade of
about
Sail.
that.
Might be singular.
Whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about.
It's Sails on Parade.
Okay, good, Marjorie. Thank you. So yesterday we spoke about the art and importance of a good apology. But that requires fessing up to a lie in the first place. So today we're exploring a different angle, inspired by our liar-in-chief. Is there a trickle-down effect of nonstop lies to all the rest of us? We think so. Just in the past couple of weeks, Trump has lied about the conditions under the ceasefire with Iran, lied about E. Jean Carroll, lied about why he took the old Air Force One home from Turkey, lied about immigrants and immigration, continuously lied about the 2020 election, saying, quote, I've been right about everything. I have been for a long time. It's how I got to be president 3 times. It's how I won 3 elections. He went on to repeat that he won the 2020 election, but it was rigged. There were probably hundreds more, but we only have a couple of hours. Trickling down in a really serious, horrible outcome, ICE lied about the Mexican father in Houston who they killed, saying he was a target, which he was not. There's the head of the FBI, Kash Patel, director of the FBI, lying about how he paid for his VIP snorkeling trip at Pearl Harbor and whatever else he's doing. They're lying about Epstein. And since there is a bipartisan aspect, obviously Graham Plattner picked up on the lying too. We don't want to talk about the big boys and girls, though, lying. We want to ask, is the lying flowing downhill to all the rest of us? Our number is 877-301-8970. Call or text with your thoughts on the culture of telling partial truths, half-truths, downright lies. There are a whole culture around lying change when that 2015 golden escalator moment happened that we all watched. 877-301-8970. You know, we talk about this a lot off the air.
Yeah.
The lying is so universal and normalized from Donald Trump that we laugh. It's so absurd.
Oh, yeah.
But the consequences are serious. But because of that, it's become acceptable in all parts of a high level of the administration, to lie about whatever it is to escape responsibility. And it seems to me, if you look around yourself, that lying, sort of like sexual abuse, as we talked about yesterday, is becoming more of the norm. Why are you laughing?
Well, just 2 quick ones from the NATO press conference. He said this over and over again, that he has created $19.2 trillion worth of investments.
Trillion with a T.
Trillion in just 1 year. That is total baloney. I mean, he's talking about these vague promises and pledges from other countries, and there's no evidence that we're anywhere close.
No, we have a number. It's $232 billion. It is 95 times smaller than the number he picked. 19 trillion versus 200 billion.
I'm suspicious of the billion number 2. And then we have, he always claims, we had the largest number of plants being built for the most money ever in the history of our country. Car plants, AI plants, all other plants, pharmaceutical plants, blah, blah, blah. In fact, there was much more manufacturing going on under Joe Biden than under Donald Trump. But he keeps saying these things over and over, and people actually, at least some people believe him. But my favorite, come on, Kash Patel. We all remember the stories about Kash Patel, the head of the FBI. You know, how they practically needed crowbars to get him out of his hotel room because he was
passed out drunk in his room.
For a night of drinking. And he was over at the Olympics bouncing around, you know, after guzzling all those beers with the hockey team. Well, you know, so you're in a little trouble anyway, because you were on TV all the time trashing Christopher Wray, the previous head of the FBI, for flying around the country. Kash Patel was, yeah. So you're on thin ice anyway. Why would you go off on a VIP snorkeling trip in Hawaii.
Because you can. That's why.
or go jet skiing. Or apparently.
No, by the way, he can go jet skiing in a VIP trip. We're paying for it. Is the point?
For it.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I'm not even sure he should be on a
yes, he should.
VIP
There's nothing wrong
snorkeling.
with him doing.
Yeah, I think he wouldn't be head of the FBI. You think
he's allowed to have fun?
You think Mueller was running around
he's
jet
allowed
skiing?
to get drop dead drunk whenever he wants during working hours.
Okay, and the last thing is, I guess he was really ticked off at the agents. He's over Brussels on another suspicious trip, and he retaliates apparently. I don't know if he fired them or put them on suspension, the agents, because he did not feel his entertainment schedule had been adequately filled up for the trip in Brussels, so they all got in trouble. I mean, who does this kind of thing?
877-301-8970. Anonymous texter George Costanza, quote, "It's not a lie if you believe it." And by the way, if there are parents of kids out there, which we know there are, what do you say to your kid? If your kid is watching the evening news or CNN or Fox News or MS Now, and Donald Trump gets up and tells a big fat lie, which, again, is a regular occurrence, when the kid tells a lie and you catch him or her and they say something, maybe not this precisely, well, the most powerful person in the world is allowed to do it. Why can't I?
Here's a good one. Yes, the lies have overwhelmed me, says a texter. For instance, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is so far gone, it's insulting to hear it nowadays. It should be replaced with increase your productivity or die. Complete submission to those in power and pursuit of trinkets on Amazon.
877-301-8970. We'll start with Greg in Cambridge. Welcome to the show, Greg. Hi.
Hey.
Hey to you.
I think this whole question of lying is at the heart of what besets a lot of our country. For those of us from the English Protestant tradition, we think about the Ninth Commandment banning the bearing of false witness against our neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's ever preached on at any church I've been in the 26 years I've lived in Massachusetts. I don't think I've ever heard it preached on, and I go to church most weeks. I'm fairly certain a similar moral ethic exists in every religion on the face of the planet, yet it's completely overlooked. We define morality as sex, and that's the extent of it.
But, Greg, you seem to be saying that this lack of concern about honesty well predates Donald Trump. Is that what you're saying? This is a long-time disease, not a Trumpian-inspired disease.
I started being concerned about it in the 2000s, and I spoke with a Presbyterian minister here in Cambridge who I know from my childhood about it. And he said, well, I don't really care because the Dems lie just as much as the Republicans do. So he instantly went to the political utility of lying rather than the ethical framework that lying destroys.
Yeah, that's pretty pathetic, by the way. Maybe you should look for other work. Greg, thanks for starting us off. We appreciate it.
Correct me if I'm remembering this wrong, but Bill Clinton was impeached for lying under oath.
I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
So in the 1990s, we took lying about sex as a serious matter. I guess with Plattner, we had to wait till he was lying about an awful lot of forced, coerced sex.
But I think the point the caller is making, the issue is not, who's lying more than anybody else. The question is it become internalized, and is it okay? And obviously, I hope people would agree that it's far from okay.
Well, just in that same NATO
here she goes, Kash Patel.
No, not Kash Patel, where the president lied about the $19.2 trillion in investment and
got another one?
all the manufacturing. Yeah, he says what he's said a million times by now, that he's won 3 elections. 3 elections. I've been right about everything, and I have been for a long time. It's how I got to be president 3 times, how I won 3 elections. I mean, it's kind of become like a joke. But again, there are some people who believe it, and a lot of Republicans in Congress are you have to take that oath now that you believe you won the election to get a job in the Trump administration.
By the way, Anonymous Text says there was a lot of lying yesterday on the show relating to stealing others' French fries. That was the final segment. If you missed that, just check it out on YouTube. Or Alan,
I
can we
think you
take
were
some
lying.
calls here?
Weren't you lying, Jim, about
I was
the French
not lying
fry
at all.
situation?
No, I believe French fries are a common property, regardless of whose order it is. That is not a lie. Thank you.
Alan
Goodbye.
from New Hampshire. Thank you for
Alan,
calling,
what's
Alan.
up?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I've been to the live show before, but this is my first call in.
We're glad you did. What's
Thank
up?
you.
I have a godson who is 15 years old. He's a very smart, bright kid and his friends. And I'm just beside myself that this is the first president that they will really have awareness of in any kind
wonderful
of way.
point.
And so just the lying sets the wrong tone for the country, for the young people, and, for example, suppressing the information about what really happened on January 6th. Not only did they take down the information on the website, but they actually created an alternative narrative on the White House website about what happened. So I'm just very upset. I'm frightened for this generation.
You know, by the way, you made a really important point that may be obvious to others, but I ignored it. It's not just what do you say to young kids. As you say, a young kid's experience of a certain age, the first president that they're sort of conscious of is this one. So that is a really wonderful and horrible point all at once. Alan, thank you for making the call. We really appreciate it. Make another one soon.
You know, a texter raises a question I should have thought of.
Cash Patel, I can tell. Now, let me tell you, when Marjorie gets stuck, you know, little kids get stuck on something. It's Cash Patel. It's Cash Patel, isn't it?
The texter wants to know
Here it goes.
if Cash Patel was jet skiing to the Poodle Room.
Okay, fine. You have to explain what the Poodle Room is for
The
those.
Poodle Room is this high-end bar in Las Vegas where all the movie stars go, I guess, or the high-roller gamblers.
Yeah.
And it has this an astronomical price to get in, and the cocktails are really big.
Yeah.
I guess Cash spent a long time
Okay, good.
in the Poodle Room before going on another VIP snorkeling trip.
Okay.
I don't think you can do that, though, in Las Vegas. No snorkeling in Las Vegas. Poodle Room. Wow. Jane and Quincy, thank you for calling.
By the way, if anybody calls and says they want to talk about the snorkeling trip, you'll probably get pushed to the top of the list. So that's just a little tip there.
Think about this. Elliot Ness,
Okay.
Robert Mueller,
Yeah.
even Christopher Wray,
Yeah.
the most recent head. Can you imagine any of these guys running around on a business trip for the FBI, going to the Poodle Room or going snorkeling VIP or not?
I could see J. Edgar Hoover in the Poodle Room like nonstop.
That's
a different poodle, by the way, let me tell you.
That's an excellent point.
Probably doing the poodle.
That's right. That's
Jane
right.
and Quincy, you're next on BP. Oh, you're there already. Hi, Jane. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
This is Jane. This is really Jane from Hingham. I just lied to you.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry to hear that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and no. I was trying to be funny.
Well, I was
and,
trying to be funny,
I'm a
too. We
long-time
both failed.
listener.
Go ahead. What?
I'm a long-time listener, and
Thanks.
I think you're both great. You're
We
really
are.
both great.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
lying is such a great topic,
Yeah.
and I'm sick of the. I'm not a Trumper. I'm sick of hearing about Trump. But everybody lies. Everybody lies.
Well, that's true. People do lie about.
It's like about everything, and it's unbelievable.
When you
And
say everybody, who is the everybody about whom we're speaking, Jane?
Dentists, about gold
Dentists?
is better than.
Wait a second. Dentists are lying? What are they lying about?
The
Your
state of
dentures?
the
What
state
are
of
they
your
lying
gums.
Yeah, the cost, what to get, how to
Oh.
get another X-ray. I mean, yeah, I'm telling you.
I love my
in
dentist.
the media. What about all we know? Like I keep thinking about this Brigham women thing. I mean, like what's really going on?
Well,
You
by the
know?
way, the two of the nurses are going to be on with us today at 12:25. So if you want to learn about what's going on, I can tell you one thing that's going on. The nurses went back to work yesterday after a one-day strike, and the hospital management locked them out for 4 more days because they have contracts with the temporary fill-in nurses. That's one fact. Jane, thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Now, a texter wants to know if Cash Patel
Oh, my
was
God.
falling for someone to take. He wanted someone to take a lie detector test, and they wouldn't do it. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that Senator Chris Holland asked Cash Patel when he was in the
Van
in front
Holland
of
is
Congress.
his name,
Van
too, by the way.
Holland.
He was on with
Chris
us
Van
2
Holland.
weeks ago.
He was on 2 weeks. That's right, he was. He asked Cash Patel to take the 10-question alcohol use disorders test after another one of these reports about how he was out of drinking on the job. And Van Holland took the test the next day.
He did.
Yes. Has Cash Patel taken the 10-question alcohol
Can you
use
explain
disorders
again, by the way,
ID
because
test?
you did it fast and you were lying. I mean, laughing. Explain, not lying, laughing.
Poodle room?
Explain what happened, when people knocked on his door, his staff, and he was the head of the FBI was unresponsive.
He was unresponsive.
Now, what did they have to do?
Well, I was exaggerating. They didn't really take out crowbars, but they were very upset because there was an incident they wanted him to deal with, and he apparently was had a rough night the night before.
They needed an AR-15 to knock the lock off the door to get to the
it may have been another
drunk
long night
Patel.
in the poodle room, Jim. I'm not sure.
I know.
Okay.
Dina in Tewksbury, you are next on BPR.
Imagine what
welcome.
Elliot Ness would say about that.
Okay, fine.
Jim.
Dina in Tewksbury, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi. So what can we do? I have an answer.
What?
First of all, don't try to convince the MAGA people. If they've swallowed the Kool-Aid, taken the morphine, they're not going to change for the most part. But this morning, like with my grandson who's 3, I'm starting to teach values. His parents did too, but his mom called me back and said we were on the phone, and he was upset because I didn't say hello to him. And I said, oh, Michael, I'm really sorry. I said, do you forgive me? And he said, yes, Mama. And I said that, and my husband said, why are you doing that? I said, it's a teaching moment. And his brain is a sponge, and he needs to know that when you need to say you're sorry and fess up, we need to do it.
I love that story.
And I think if they learn this from the beginning, it will help to make a difference, and I do a lot of friggin' praying, let me tell you.
Dina, that's a beautiful call, and that was a wonderful thing to do. Thanks for sharing that with us.
We have a story today that's from Time Inc. talking about how, Time.com, talking about how much people do lie about everything. Sex is one of the biggest things people lie about.
Well, that predated Trump.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with Trump.
No.
That's right. And they know that because people talk about how many condoms they get used, and there are not that many condoms being sold. But the big things people lie about are sex, racism, how we vote, what we read, and the way we feel about our children.
You know what I found? I didn't want to get into this, but since the caller raised it, I have found in terms of professions, the one profession you can least trust is dentistry. That's how many of you in the audience feel your dentist lies to you all the time? Anybody? All of them. It's incredible.
I don't know, Jim. I would say.
What is that woman talking about?
I would say it's the hygienist.
Really? Have you ever had your dentist?
Those sneaky hygienists.
I have Fahim Rasul in Brookline. You're one of the most honest men I have ever known in my life. Actually, when he comes in, he always has his hand on a Bible, raises his right hand before he tells me what's wrong in my mouth. I require it, and then he does whatever he does.
Yeah.
What is it about dentistry?
I found my dentist to be very truthful.
I found him to be truthful. By the way, Marjorie's dentist, this has nothing to do with lying. Excuse me. Marjorie's dentist. Marjorie invites me when she was working at the Herald to go with her because she was covering a fetish fair in Mansfield, Massachusetts. Right. She goes to the fetish fair. She gets back to work. She gets an email from a guy who says, why didn't you say hello to me at the fetish fair? Who was the guy?
My dentist.
Her dentist.
My dentist.
Exactly. who was dressed as her dentist in a French maid's outfit.
No, he was not.
Oh, yes,
no,
he was,
Marjorie.
not.
He told me later that he was into motorcycle kind of stuff. Leather.
Yeah, a French maid on a motorcycle.
He's no longer my dentist. He's no longer my dentist.
Because he's at the fetish fair. You can't do that and be filling cavities.
Okay, that was a long time ago. Patrick in but he never told me to lie.
Notice how Marjorie wants to change the subject there?
Patrick in Med.
Hello, Patrick.
Hi.
We're talking about lying. Hello, Patrick. What's up?
Hi. I'm in Medfield and long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you very much.
I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and my 7-year-old, if he hears something in the news or if he hears something a friend says at school about Trump, I've had to start explaining Trump and current events and politics.
Wow.
And he's very interested and curious, so when he asks us about him, we have to tell him the truth, and the truth is that he's a liar, that he doesn't tell the truth. And your earlier guest was talking about teachable moments, and I'm a former teacher, and I think it's great to instill these values before you have to have these conversations.
Could you describe the conversation that you have with your kid about the President of the United States not telling the truth? What do you say? How does it go?
I mean, he asks pretty simple things like, did we vote for him?
Uh-huh.
Do we like him? And we give him the honest answers every time. It's no, we didn't vote for him. We don't like him. I, too, on January 6th was horrified as I was playing with, my now 7-year-old and just watching what was going on. and knowing that he was going to grow up in this political environment, and then knowing when he was elected that it would be the first president we have a conversation probably about. And it's he's very receptive, and he hears it, and I try to, not spin it, but just
I think it's great. I love that. I love what the woman said. I love what you said. Patrick, before you go away, do you find your dentist to be generally honest?
I love my dentist too, Jim, and but I have had some dishonest dentists, and I was told a long time ago by a very trustworthy dentist that you should always ask them, before you become a patient, you should always ask your dentist, do you still have college loans?
Oh, because if they do, then they're going to charge you through the whatever. Is that the point?
There's an incentive to get
Patrick, you're a wise man and father.
Well,
thank you for the call.
We have a lot of people after their dentist, apparently. AB from Worcester says, my dentist tried to bully me into a crazy, expensive deep cleaning. I found a new dentist and said he didn't need a deep cleaning.
Wow.
So there you go.
Incredible.
Have you
By
ever
the way,
been bullied into an expensive deep cleaning?
No, I have not.
What is
actually.
a deep cleaning?
A deep cleaning hurts, actually. That's when they got to go right into your gum kind of thing.
Whoa.
It's really bad. Sue O'Connell, who will be here at noon, apparently is so busy working that she had to text us to saying, quote, I have a lot to say about dentists and lies. So at noon, Sue will be doing that. And
we're waiting.
Nicole put up a poll. Mm-hmm. Do you trust your dentist? This is actually encouraging. It's on YouTube.
I love my dentist.
75% have said yes, which is really uplifting, heartening,
It
and only
is.
25% no.
Cash Patel just had 4 implants.
I did, that's right. And we're paying for it.
We're paying for
Exactly.
it, that's right.
Jane in Taunton. Hi, you got a minute. Take it away.
Hi. I've gone to one dentist. I have really deep pits in my teeth, and he's like, you need to have them filled.
Yeah.
And 20 years later, I still have not had them filled. I keep going from dentist to dentist. And as soon as they tell me I need to have them filled, I find a new dentist.
Incredible.
And I'm great. With this dentist now, I love them.
That's great. That is one of the great
Tells me my
stories
teeth
we've
are
ever had on the show. Thank you for sharing that 20-year-old saga. I mean, it's 20 years she's been traveling from dentist to dentist.
Maybe
Until she got the right answer.
President Trump had a bad experience with his dentist. Do you think that's where this all began, Jim?
Maybe. We're going to do a segment next week on dentistry and
and we should know by the end of the weekend whether exactly which taxpayer or whether it was actually Cash Patel who paid for the VIP snorkeling and any dental work that's
Can I do a serious news Trump update very quickly? We told you today was the day if Trump did not sign the Elizabeth Warren-inspired affordable housing bill, it became law. And apparently he will not veto it. And by the end of the day, it will become the law of the United States of America without his signature, which is actually pretty good news.
Okay, thank you very much for your calls and texts. After this quick break, we're going to hear from the editor-in-chief of Boston Magazine, Chris Vogel. They just came out with their best of list of best restaurants and bars, and we're going to be joined by 2 of this year's winners in Boston Magazine. That is next on Boston Public Radio. We are live at the Boston Public Library. He's Jim Brady. I'm Marjorie Egan. We are listening to GBH at any PM, and we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
When we look back at the American Revolution, we're not just looking at history. Each story reveals how a young democracy struggled with questions that still echo today. When we look at our past, we uncover what remains fragile now. Discover our series From Colony to Commonwealth at gbh.org/America250.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Newport Mansions, presenting Loyalty or Liberty, a new play exploring the difficult choices Newporters faced during the American Revolution. Performances at Hunter House Tuesdays and Saturdays through August. NewportMansions.org. And Burton's Grill and Bar, serving weekend brunch with dishes like cast iron French toast, chicken and waffles, crab cake Benedict, and short rib hash. With 8 locations in Greater Boston. Burton'sGrill.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Attorney General joins us for an hour on August 11th. We're still waiting to lock up a date with Governor Healy for July. So Boston Magazine is out with its annual Best of Boston list, ahead of their Best of Boston magazine soiree on July 22nd. We'll talk about that. Joined now at the library desk by the editor-in-chief, Chris Vogel, the guy everybody is kind to for obvious reasons, and two of the Best of winners. Justin Power is the Director of Operations for All Day Hospitality Group, which includes the winner for Best Cocktails, the Red Fox in North End, where I had a banana Vardier. Is that how you say it the other night?
Vardier, yes.
Unbelievable. And what a plate. Gorgeous. We'll talk about it, too. Michael Foley, owner and operator of J.J. Foley's Cafe, where Marjorie and her Herald colleagues would spend every Thursday on payday until the place closed. More info on all this at bostonmagazine.com/Best of Boston Soiree and bostonmagazine.com/Best of Boston. Welcome to all three of you, and congratulations.
Thank you so much for coming in, and congratulations to you both. That's really great. How many of these have you done? They've been around for a long time, right?
Oh my goodness.
Best of Boston. Yeah, 30, 40 years. Something
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
this is our 52nd year.
52nd year.
That. And I know you're not you guys aren't afraid of a little history. This is the founder of the magazine passed this along to me, that we were actually the first city magazine in a country to have a best of, followed by Philadelphia Magazine, and then basically all the others. And it became sort of the staple, the civic lift, the big thing that we all do. City magazines own this in each city. And it actually all started right here.
And by the way, is this your biggest issue? Is it the biggest issue?
You know, it's certainly our sort of most popular and the one that's most anticipated. I'll tell you that.
So every year we ask you the same question, and this year you're going to tell the truth. How do you decide who gets what?
Well, what did they say? The secret to getting a Carnegie Hall is practice.
Yeah.
For us, it's literally research. We're out these days probably 11 months of the year, beating the pavement, testing sort of anonymously. We're very fortunate to have a budget to do so.
And for people who haven't seen this issue yet, it's not just dining and bars. Give us the spectrum of things that you do best of in.
Well, that's right. We go to the Cape and Islands as well, but we all love of Emily Sweeney from the Globe, one of our favorites. So she got
best local reporter.
Oh, she's great.
Stress the H. That's right. We of course have assembly design. Design is really hot these days. So assembly design won an award for best restaurant design for all the incredible work they're doing. Some of it, recipients of that right here today.
Services, a whole bunch of things, right? I mean,
it's a whole. It is. It's people. We had a best finance pro was Johnny Hilbrandt from social media. So it's people.
It's also really
places.
Fun.
It is a funny show.
So Justin, how much did you pay him to be best cocktails?
We can't disclose that on
Okay, at least you're an honest man. Yeah. So can you describe this thing?
Nothing, I can assure you.
I wasn't there till the other day. It's an unbelievable place. It's like a speakeasy deal.
Well, so, yeah, that's how we get described.
You don't like that? It is. It's great.
So the way that came to be is we have this entryway that has
which nobody can find.
Well, that's part of the charm, right? So there's a Wells Fargo office up top. There's kind of this like 1990s neo-modern entry, and we were not allowed to change that. So we thought, how can we make that work for us, which is to kind of tuck the restaurant away so that when you come down, you're surprised by this sort of beautiful, subterranean, dimly lit, red-adorned restaurant and bar.
And it's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous, and everybody seems really happy.
And you've designed a whole bunch of places.
We have, yeah. So I came to our group on the design end. We actually ended up passing this one off from concept to assembly, who Chris mentioned. And we have a couple partners, Nick Frateroli, Mike Wyatt, and we started when we were younger, and now we're all married with kids, and we've been at it for 13 years, and we've been able to get a few Best of Bostons the last couple of years. So I think we're doing something right.
So
Michael Foley, I think I know your father. I may even know your grandfather. I don't know.
No, I definitely don't like grandfather.
Yeah, but best Guinness in the United States of America.
Hands down.
J.J. Foley's.
Absolute creamer.
That's fantastic.
Absolute creamer.
Yeah, tell people about Foley's. So I was saying I went there when I was young. Every payday, because it was close to the Herald. Then I used to go there, and I come out of there feeling like an ashtray every time, whether you smoked or not, because the smoke was so heavy. You get rid of the smoking. Beautiful tin ceilings. Tell people about the place.
So J.J. Foley's been around since 1909.
1909.
We're a fifth-generation family-owned business. Right now, my father retired a couple of years ago, but myself, my two brothers, And my son, my daughters, it's still a family business. My great-grandfather opened it up in 1909 after coming over from Ireland. We've been in the South End before the South End was bougie.
That is correct. Yeah, that's right.
Which Herald columnist embarrassed themselves the most drinking at Foley?
Not one of them.
Oh,
not
that's
one.
right.
Not one.
We were all
Nobody.
behaved ourselves.
They were all
we all
good.
behaved ourselves. Speaking of which, not being bougie, I remember there was a Women of the Evening, a prostitute used to stand in the corner a block from you. $35 slipped off her shirt. That was a long time ago. Remember her?
She was an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur, that's
she
right.
won Best Entrepreneur in Boston, by the way. How much does this matter? I mean, I have to say, I am somebody who looks at lists like this before I decide if I'm going to go to a new place. Actually, wouldn't have been at your place, I'm embarrassed to say, unless I had seen this to begin with. How much does it help you? Does it?
It matters a lot. Yeah, it does. And even, as a local guy, growing up, before I was in the industry, we always read it. And these places seemed almost mythical, It's just very important to be involved because you reach a whole new audience that doesn't know about you. Not everybody lives in the city and is as connected to the industry, but people in the suburbs and beyond read Boston Magazine. There's a lot of cachet that comes with that. So it's huge.
And does it matter to a place that's been around as long as yours has?
Oh, I absolutely think it
Really?
does. Because, like you said, you're opening up the whole new market of people that may not come into Boston that often or may just not know about us.
Michael, what is key to having a creamy Guinness? I mean, they went this whole explanation about why it's the best Guinness.
So obviously the temperature has to be right. The lines have to be clean. You have to pour a lot of it. And some places just don't pour it with love. We pour it with love every pint.
So, Chris, when you opened up your Boston Globe, I don't know, a month ago, and saw, Best of the Best or whatever, what was the first thing you said to a coworker after having seen that their variation on a half-century theme at the magazine?
Oh, as you know, the Globe acquired Boston Magazine about a year and a half ago. So they are.
Oh, so you can't say anything bad. I forgot about that.
So that's exactly right.
So if the Globe,
I clicked my heels and.
Okay, so if the Globe didn't own Boston Magazine right now, what would you say?
Say it again.
Exactly. That's what I figured.
So tell us why there's no more worst. There used to be a worst, Chris Vogel, and that's been gone for a while.
Au contraire.
Yeah, we saw it.
If you go to the back page of the magazine, the last few years we've dipped our toe back into it because, as you said, for the first 25, 30 years or so, there was a best and a worst.
Yeah.
And then it became just the best. And so now we've tried to bring back a little of that spirit without necessarily the full sledgehammer of meanness.
Well, that's what I thought, because it was a sledgehammer. I mean, if you were the worst restaurant or the worst mechanic or something, that would really hurt your business,
yeah,
right?
no, it had it had the opposite effect of what we were just hearing.
Is that why you got rid of it?
Well, that was before I've been here probably longer than anyone in my 11th year, but it was still before I arrived, that decision was made. But we love the spirit of it, so we brought it back. We put our tongue in our cheek, and we're very very proud of the fact that we're making fun of ourselves as well.
Well, you made fun of yourself for your worst cover issue, Chris. What was your
worst
cover issue?
Worst cover timing.
Yeah. You want to tell people about that?
Yeah, well, that was our May issue, which was our 150 most influentials, which I believe...
we were 38th.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank
not
you
that you
very
remember.
We were 38th.
We were? I thought we were 48th.
We moved up 4 spots from last year.
Oh.
Not that I'm counting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Whatever. So we have, excuse me,
oh, no.
the Globe publicist Jill is listening at home. I guess, what's it again, with her for her birthday? I don't know what that means. Oh, the kid's birthday. She's home with her kid. She texted to say, this is a quote from Jill, "Thanks for making me have to explain to my kid what a prostitute is."
That
Jill,
was my fault.
That's
why
we're here
to the audience.
Yeah.
That is happy birthday to Jill's
never too
kid,
young
by the way.
to learn. You never know.
So you are Justin, I believe this food is from your joint. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Tell us what you brought. It's gorgeous.
So today we brought, this is probably our most popular dish. It's a prosciutto with zeppoli. Zeppoli's Italian donut. So you get the sweet, the salty, the reward from the flaky pastry. Kind of a different presentation for how Italian restaurants do prosciutto. Here we just have meatballs. We use, kind of like a Nona recipe. We have pasta alla vodka. We make our rigatoni in house every day.
Oh, nice.
With just flour and water. We got an imported Italian pasta maker. And this is just an Italian chopped salad. We really don't try to reinvent the wheel. We try to do Italian-American comfort food that you've had a million times, but use the best ingredients we can, make it from scratch every day so that you kind of taste the difference.
It's really pretty, too, by the way.
All right,
which
Michael,
matters.
where's the Guinness?
It didn't travel well.
It didn't travel well.
It's too hot outside.
So, Chris Vogel, this soiree, 22nd is when the thing is?
Yeah, the 22nd.
Who's allowed to come to this deal? Where is it? What's the...
You know, anybody can hop online and get tickets, and I certainly encourage everyone to come. It's a great way to almost sort of immerse yourself in the issue and kind of experience it. There's more than 30 restaurants and experiences, activations. Y'all will be there, which is I'm very excited to see you. And so it's a really fun time, and so I encourage everybody to go to BostonMagazine.com and buy a ticket.
You know, Chris, is there anything that just kind of like that was knock your socks off was the expression Jim used this morning, but just something that surprised you? Every year there must be something that you never heard of or that just kind of came out of nowhere. Anything like that in the last couple of years? You know, I'm not going to give you a lame answer because the answer is there's always new winners and people who are excited about it. There's always people who are just do great work and never cease doing great work that we like to honor. So I'm in this process for an entire year. So by the time we get out here, I feel like I'm fairly well versed in everybody. Now, I used to work at Boston Magazine.
Yes.
When I used to work at Boston Magazine, this is a long time ago, before the issue would come out and we'd be deciding, suddenly ice cream quarts would arrive over the transom as, beautiful clothing from different stores, and it was a very exciting time. Does that still happen?
You know what happens less, and there was a time, as you said, when we were flooded with product when we were at the office across from the BSO.
That's
right.
right.
It was a wonderful office there in the Arboretum there, and these days a little less so. And actually, we have a little bit more arm's distance, I think, than maybe we used to from the people we're honoring, which is a good thing for editorial independence.
By the way, when Marjorie tells me stories about working at Boston Magazine, it never involves ice cream. It involves 2 martini lunches. Is that not? You said whenever the magazine went to bed,
after you put the magazine to bed, you go out and have a celebratory lunch.
That was the spirit of the owners at the time, for sure.
I get a nostalgia story about J.J. Foliage, which isn't totally J.J. Foliage, but I'm going to tell it anyway, because it's probably my favorite night in my life in Boston, when newspapers were still big deals. The Globe and the Herald were still really big deals, and the Herald was still selling a lot of newspapers. So the Herald got shut down. This was a long time ago. And what did we do when the Herald got shut down? Everybody left their desks. They had these big guys lock up the vending machines, and we all went down to J.J. Foliage and spent the afternoon drinking our sorrows away. And then at the last minute, Rupert Murdoch, owner of Fox News now, everything reached an agreement with the unions, and the Herald was back open. So we kind of rather drunken reporters had to go back to write the story. But the moment that was great is that people may know J.J. Foliage, right near the Herald, intersection of the Massachusetts Turnpike and 93 South at rush hour. We're walking back, and the headline on the Herald was, "You Bet We're Alive." And we're walking back from your bar, and everybody's tooting the horn in the traffic and shouting out the window and yelling, "You bet we're alive, you bet we're alive, you bet we're alive." It was a great, great moment that people cared that much about the survival of that newspaper.
That's great.
So
if that's not a vote for best of, I don't know what is. That's great.
That's a moment. That's not a bad. You two guys, we're going to talk at the end of the show how there seems to be that we had Mayor Wu standing there a couple of days ago, and we asked her if she wanted to continue the things around the 3 a.m. deal and the drinking zones after the World Cup is gone. She said, yeah, you need the state legislature, et cetera. We're going to talk about what things from World Cup time people want to continue. How do you two feel about the at least through July 31st drinking rules that were special for the World Cup, starting with you?
So I think that the city of Boston has done a great job the last couple of months doing their best to accommodate all the visitors to Boston. I don't know personally if I like the 3 o'clock license, but I mean, that's...
But it's optional, right? You don't have to do it.
You could apply. You had the option to apply for it. But if it keeps conventions coming into Boston or international tourists, I think it's a great thing.
How about it, Justin? What do you think?
Yeah, why not? I mean, where our restaurants are in the North End, we have a lot of neighbors, so it wouldn't really affect us. And, we're kind of 50-50 food and drink focused, but why not try it? I get the sense that this isn't a late night city, and it would probably end up moving toward the nightclubs. But like we did with the late night tea experiment, which didn't work out, why not try it?
I'm with you. Before you guys go, I didn't get the comment on this. I am totally into the sledgehammer approach that they're avoiding. Wouldn't you like to see them trash the worst of every restaurants, bars, services, people, radio hosts? Wouldn't you tell the truth? You love it, right? Yeah, they both love it. We're your audience, so next year let's give it a shot.
All right,
okay?
we'll
Sledgehammer.
Happy
the
days.
Sledgehammer section. One more time, if people want to go to the soiree, where do they go, Chris Vogel?
They go to bostonmagazine.com, and it's at Roadrunner on the 22nd.
Fabulous. And congratulations to you guys.
Yeah,
and all
congratulations.
A lot of my
Thank you
favorites.
very
Eastern
much.
Standard,
Thank you, guys.
Padrona, Sweet
Thank you.
Cheeks, Puritan, Moo. A lot of fabulous restaurants, and congratulations to them all and all the other winners kind of thing. Congratulations.
Thank you for having us very much. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We have been speaking with the editor, Chris Vogel, editor of Boston Magazine, and two of the best of winners, Justin Power, director of operations and for All Day Hospitality Group, which includes the Red Fox in the North End, which Jim went to Wednesday, as we said, and Michael Foley, owner and operator of J.J. Foley's Cafe in the South End of Boston, with the best Guinness in the United States of America. Coming up after...
Actually, the night before that, I went to Muna. That was another winner. I forgot about them. So there you go. I'm sorry.
Okay, coming up after this quick break, Live Music Friday. We're the Tall Ships edition. We're going to have a great performance by Peruvian cultural group, this wonderful band, and we're going to hear from two lieutenants over Zoom from a Peruvian Tall Ship. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR, GBH, and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, the Emmy nominations are out, and The Pit leads the pack while Hack's final season is making comedy history. We'll look at the snubs, surprises, and streamers dominating the field. Plus, Madonna is back on the dance floor with Confessions 2. And the White House takes its latest shot at the Smithsonian, accusing the National Museum of American History of getting America's story wrong. We take on that and more on The Culture Show's Week in Review, today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing helpful digital tools, world-class providers, and coverage that help you live in the moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org. And Modern Pest Services, providing integrated pest management for Boston homes and businesses. Modern Pest uses a prevention-first approach to seasonal pests to help target the source of the problem. Learn more at modernpest.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. I'm Jim Browdy. She's Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow, the Tall Ships return to Boston Harbor for Sail Boston 2026. Included in the procession of ships, Peru's naval training ship, BAP Union, considered the largest training tall ship in Latin America. Performing at the arrival ceremony is Pumawari Tusuy, a Boston-based Peruvian cultural group, which includes, what a coincidence, the uncle of one of our producers, Nicole Garcia. We'll hear from, excuse me? Thank you. We'll hear from a lieutenant and a lieutenant commander over Zoom aboard the Peru Tall Ship in just a minute. For more information, go to Pumawari Tusuy. Marjorie will spell it in a minute on Facebook. But first, we'll hear them perform a traditional Peruvian dance called Festejo Valentina. Welcome to you all.
That
was great.
Pumawari Tusuy. I'm going to spell that for people, so if they want to look these guys up, Pumawari, then Tusuy. Thank you so much. That was absolutely wonderful.
Now, by the way, we're going to hear from members of the band in just a couple of minutes. First, we're joined on Zoom from the Tall Ship by Lieutenant Commander Rodrigo de los Eros and Lieutenant Luis Vergonzini aboard the BAP Union, currently at sea. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, where are you? How far are you from Boston?
Hello, so we're right now, we're around 5 miles from Boston and bridge.
Oh.
Okay, well, this is a difficult connection for us.
Yeah, we have
We'll
a
keep
difficult
trying to-
connection.
So you have done earlier, let me start with Lieutenant Vergonzini. Lieutenant, you have been at other places, including New York City, before this. What has it been like on the way to Boston? What's the experience been like?
Hello, how are you? Well, in cities, we went to New Orleans, Norfolk, Baltimore, New York. We have the best stations in Boston, great city. They have nice.
I think we, unfortunately, gentlemen, we're going to, don't go away.
Yeah, don't go away. We're going to
try to reconnect and see if this can be better. But in the interim, we're going to speak with 3 Pumawari members. Andrea Castillo. Wait, where is everybody? We're 3. That's 2. Where is everybody? It's going very smoothly so far on our end, I should say. Okay. 3 Pumawari members, as I said, Andrea Castillo, Genesis Puma, and Miguel Morales. Welcome to you, well, at least 2 of you, about to be a 3rd of you, I think. Hi, you guys. You were fabulous, by the way.
Thank you
Welcome.
so much.
Really appreciate it.
So tell us, what did we just see? What did we just see?
So this was a dance called Valentina. It's an Afro-Peruvian dance that was born from the slaves coming into Peru, being brought to Peru, and it's supposed to mean like a joyful, lively dance throughout the chaos they were living through.
You're the youngest member of the troupe. That's correct?
Yeah.
How much fun was that?
Good.
It was huge fun for us.
Yeah.
Were you nervous a little bit?
No.
You weren't? I was nervous. Really? Why is that fun for you? Why do you enjoy that experience?
Because I love to dance a lot.
You do? It shows.
Okay. How old are you?
10.
10. Wow. You really learned quickly.
That was
You really
fabulous.
learned quickly.
Can you introduce? Hi, by the
Oh,
way.
hello.
Thanks for joining us. Can you introduce the people who are not up on the stage? Could you do that?
Yes, of course. Well, my name, first of all, is Miguel Morales. I am the music teacher of Pumawari Tusuy. I teach what is the ensemble course of Pumawari that we also offer. And, well, the members, which are the members of the ensemble, they are also my students. So they are Tiago Pedrosa, Nicolás Pedrosa, as well as Astrid Veloz Mauri. She is also very beloved to me, and yeah, well, she.
Who's this guy over here?
Well, that's William Puma. That's
Our president.
yeah, well, one of the founders of Pumawari Tusuy. Yeah.
Does he have any relatives that I know, as far as you know? Does he have any relatives?
No, I.
Actually, I think he actually. It's a pleasure to meet you. By the way, we love Nicole. Hi, is that mic on? Can we say hello to him? Yes. You're Nicole's uncle, right?
Yes.
What do you think of her?
Oh, she's awesome. We are very proud of her because she's a wonderful lady, and which is happy to be here, you know.
Do you know this is her last day on the show today?
Yeah.
She's not so happy with us, I guess, Jim.
That's not true from what I understand.
But wherever she goes, she will do fine because she's so smart, she's so
She is.
brilliant. Yeah.
Could you describe the instrument you were playing to us?
That's an instrument called cajon.
Yeah, cajon.
That's an Afro-Peruvian instrument. Actually, basically very known all over the place. But the people that they used to come, they came from Africa to Peru.
Mm-hmm.
They found this instrument, and they enjoy so much, and they create new rhythms.
Sounds fabulous.
With a lot of drums and cajon, especially.
Played it beautifully. It was
yeah,
great.
Thank you so much.
And it's wonderful to meet you.
Thank you.
Can you explain how the group began? And it's not just performance-based. You do education work too, yes?
Well, yes, because we also we want to be diffusers of the Peruvian culture as we're here in New England. So what we normally do is we go with our dance group and we dance into different cultural events that we have been invited. The group actually has been around for a while now, like it's 7 years. Yeah. Like from, no, like I think a little bit more because it's from the 4th of September of 2017 that we're around.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Well, it's fabulous.
And what's going to happen? Are we going to try again to the gentleman on the boat?
Lieutenant Commander and Lieutenant, can you gentlemen hear us decently now? And can you hear? We hear you?
Yes, sir.
Fabulous.
Oh, good.
So,
oh,
Lieutenant
good.
Commander, starting with you again, where are you right now? Bring us up to date.
Hello, how are you, Lieutenant Commander de los Ceros? Thank you for your invitation.
Our pleasure.
Right now, we're anchored in the bay. We're 5 miles away from Boston City, just waiting to start the parade tomorrow.
And how do they arrange it? And we could ask Lieutenant Vergonzini this or De Los Heros this. How do you arrange it? Do you get, they give you a line, you're going to be behind the ship from Spain or the ship from someplace else? How does it work? Oh.
Well, why don't we ask that of the Lieutenant Commander because Lieutenant Vergonzini's mic is apparently not working. Lieutenant Commander, tell us.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So it's a great organization still Boston had. So we had a previous brief in in New York. And so we're going to go in the line with the flotillas of small boats. It's already organized. So I think we're number 6 down the parade. So it's pretty much a line between 200 yards between ships.
And when you dock here, after the parade of sail tomorrow, which I am really excited about, I should say, and I know all of Boston is, I think, pretty excited about this. When you're docked, people can go on the ship and visit. What will they see?
Yes, they're all invited to know or be here in BAB Union. We're going to have a public visit. I think it's going to start from 8 a.m. to 1800, I think. Mm-hmm. So what they're going to see, they're going to see a big, beautiful 4-bar ship made entirely in Peru. It has all tradition maritime rigging. It has modern systems for navigation, and it has a little piece of Peru. We have a small museum called Casa Peru, where you're going to see all the Peruvian culture and all what Peru can give to the world.
Well, I asked before, and again, my apologies, Lieutenant Vergonzini, for leaving you out, but your mic is just not in great shape. We can try it one more time. What was the reception like at the earlier ports, like New York and the cities before? Let's try Lieutenant Vergonzini one last time. What was the reception like? Well, unfortunately. Lieutenant Commander De Los Oros, what was the reception like?
Oh, it was great. We had a big reception in all the ports. We had a big expectation. I think it went over it. People here in the United States were so kindly, really interested about tall ships, and we really had a great time in all the ports. And we're looking forward here.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you here too.
Just one last quick question for me. I wonder, Lieutenant Commander, do your crew members get to go out and hang out in New York and have some fun, or is it all work and no play?
No, we have fun.
Oh, good.
They've been in Times Square. They've been around all the nice avenues they have in New York. They have been in all the places around the city. So I guess we're going to have the same fun here in Boston, too.
Great. That's fantastic.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We're really looking forward
and our
to tomorrow.
Apologies that it didn't work out
to our
as well
city.
as we hoped.
Miguel,
you're very welcome here.
Thank you
so much. Miguel, before you introduce what the final performance is going to be, on the 25th of the month, tomorrow you're playing When the Tall Ship, the Peruvian Tall Ship.
Yes.
But on the 25th in Lynn, free, which we like at noon, Fiestas Patrias Peru, what is that?
Yeah, Fiestas Patrias Peru is basically the anniversary celebration of Pumawari Tusuy. It's a yearly event that we do yearly. And also we do celebrate not only the anniversary of Pumawari Tusuy, but also we celebrate Peruvian independence. So we will be, serving lots of traditional Peruvian food as well as Peruvian entertainment, like, music, dances, all of that will be included. Even the Pumawari Tusuy ensemble, which is the ensemble that I direct, conduct, and I play in, that we will be performing shortly for you guys. Yes, we'll be also performing there. The song that we're going to perform right now, which is also one of the songs that we're going to show there, is Ahora Bailalo, Now Dance With It, by Marco Romero. Marco Romero is a composer and artist that he's very dedicated to the diffusion of Peruvian culture there in Peru. He has his own program on radio and also in TV. He actually started in, I think it was called Mediodía Criollo, like Criollo music at noon. That will be the that translation, but yes.
So what everybody wants to know, are you going to be there on the 25th in Lynn, yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all we needed to know to make sure. 25th in Lynn at noon, it's free. You were great. It's so good to see you.
Thank you very much.
And here they are back again. Welcome to you all. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, Miguel is joining. Oh, you're joining them. Oh, Miguel, come on over. Can you give the information on the festival one more time?
I was going to say Pumawari Tusuy. For more info, go to them on Facebook. I'm going to spell it Pumawari, Tusuy, Tusuy on Facebook.
And here they are. Welcome back, gentlemen and lady. There's about to be a guitar plugged in. As soon as that happens, they're going to take it away. And there it is. Welcome back.
Nace en mi sangre, nace como la aurora, trae sonidos de cajones, trae sonidos que se añoran. El ritmo nace en mi sangre, nace como la aurora, trae sonidos de cajones, trae sonidos que se añoran. Ritmo de piel morena que renace en la cintura, que se lleva por la vena, que se hereda y que perdura de padeza. Hijo, transmite este ritmo que es el mío, movimiento de cadera. Es así como yo digo, bailalo, cántalo, muévelo, gózalo. Bailalo, cántalo, muévelo, gózalo. Ritmo negro baila ahora, ritmo negro baila ahora. Oye, de piel morena, ritmo negro baila ahora. Con sabor en tu cintura, ritmo negro va. Con sabor en tus caderas, ritmo negro baila. Báilalo, muévelo, gózalo, ritmo negro baila ahora. Quiero que cantes como yo, ritmo negro baila ahora. Como yo con sabrosura, ritmo negro baila ahora. Ritmo negro baila ahora.
That was Pumawari Tusuy. For more information, go to them. Look for them on Facebook. I want to tell you they're going to be July 11th down at the Tall Ships. They'll be performing there. And also Fiesta Patrias event July 25th in Lynn starting at noon. Free entry, food and drinks for purchase, dance, raffles, live music. I'm going to spell the name again for you. Pumawari Tusuy, Tusuy on Facebook for more information. Thank you very much for coming in. We say goodbye to those people at NEPM. We're going to move on now. Sue O'Connell is coming up after this quick break.
Support GBH? Unlock all NPR Plus podcasts, like the Sunday Puzzle podcast, and enjoy exclusive perks like early access and bonus episodes from some of your favorite shows. Learn more at gbh.org/NPR Plus.
Funding for our programs comes from you And Gloucester Stage, presenting Betrayal by Harold Pinter. When two lovers meet for the last time, their affair unfolds backwards into a near decade-long illicit love triangle. Now through August 1st. Tickets available at gloucesterstage.com. And Morningside Music Bridge, returning to Boston. The summer program shines a spotlight on young classical musicians from around the world, with concerts July 12th through August 7th at New England Conservatory. mmb.international.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. Thank you, and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Ask the Attorney General, August 11th, here at the Boston Public Library. And we are still awaiting word. We'll let you know as soon as we have it on a July date for the Governor, Moore Healey. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. We're joined now by news influencer and our favorite local woman, Sue O'Connell, political commentator with NBC 10 Boston, co-host of the podcast At Issue, the 2026 midterm elections. That's available every Monday. And she texted us about 45 minutes ago and says she has a lot to say about the honesty or lack of same of dentists in America. Sue O'Connell,
Yeah.
it's great to see you.
Good to see you too. Happy Friday.
Okay, would you like to tell us your dental horror stories
No, I
before we
just
get
want
any
to say
further?
that the problem is not necessarily the dentists. It's
Oh.
that we don't have universal health care.
That's
right?
true.
And the problem is that dentists have to go to dental school and have
They
these
do.
huge
Yeah,
loans.
they do.
And then they're not part of hospitals and they're not part of practices. So in order to be able to give you state-of-the-art care, they have to buy their own equipment and run their own businesses. So dentists are doubly burdened by having the loans and not being part of universal health care like other democracies, and having to buy their own equipment. So, for example, when I go to this posh a dentist 15 years ago, and I've had a lot of work on my teeth because I have genetic bone loss, so I've had expensive work
It's a little
done.
bit too much information.
Well, you have
Go
to
ahead.
know, they
That's
walk
fine.
in, they look in my mouth, they
Okay,
see
fine.
that I have spent thousands of dollars, and they say you have to have all of your fillings removed right away. And that, of course, was 15 years ago. I went to a new dentist who said, no, you don't need to do that. So it's a little bit like going to a mechanic. Is
Okay.
all I want to say about the dentists. They're great people. Some of my best friends are dentists.
So let
I
me
feel
ask you,
like-
the thing you left out of the story is
Yeah.
obviously your dentist took possession of your home.
Yes.
Are they leasing it out
They're
or are they
leasing
living
it out
in
now.
it?
Yes, no, but it's just, I understand how people have it, but it's not their fault necessarily, but you do have to get a second opinion.
You want an
Okay.
honest, affordable dentist? Call me.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. No, I'm not the dentist, but I can refer you to
Yes.
one. Thank you.
So we talked about this yesterday with Andrew Cabral. People may have read it in the Globe as well. Michael Proctor,
Yeah.
lead investigator in the Karen Reed case, has been revealed to have written and said a bunch of racist, sexist, horrible things, N-word, C-word, all these awful things, raising the question of what should happen to the other cases that he's been involved with. Can we trust those were investigations, particularly if they were involving women or anybody that was a person of color?
Well, we'll find out because the Miles King case is making its way through the court system with Rosemary Scarpicchio.
She'll be with us on Tuesday, by the way.
And here's a case where there's not, I don't want to put words in her mouth or jump to conclusions, but there's not a lot of facts in this case that are in dispute, and Proctor was the lead investigator, and Miles King is black, and obviously this is going to be an issue in the investigation. And don't forget, you also have Good, the Sean Good from Canton Police Department, his text messages with Proctor, which could also open a door into anything that he investigated in Canton. And, I want to say one thing about these text messages, because whenever we talk about them or I post about them, there's somebody who's a wise guy that says, oh, Sue is shocked that there's racism in the police department or misogyny in law enforcement. These texts are so vile.
Yeah, they're really bad.
It is some of the worst long-term exchanges of degrading everybody but white men. Straight white men. Everybody else is degraded, and it's a culture of degradation that they are engaging in. It's not just a random, I made a post on Reddit, or I had a bad day, or I got angry and I posted something. This pulls back a curtain of individuals who are engaged in the kind of discussion and I'm going to call it a culture, because it's what it is, with each other. It was their love language between Good and Proctor. This was their friendship based on these vile texts. So I do think, I agree that if I were found guilty and Proctor and Good had been working on my case, and I was anything but a straight white man, I think I would be pushing to have...
Unless you were a straight white Jewish man, because they went after Jews as well, saying Hitler was onto a good thing.
Yesterday, I suggested to Andrea, I didn't know if I thought this was the right thing, but just put it in the air, that it seems to be so deep and, as you say, vile, that the courts should consider a remedy like in the Annie Ducon the drug lab scheme, where they dismiss thousands of cases. There's a middle step which doesn't put all the burden on the defendants who have been investigated, in quotes, by people like these two guys, is rather than the burden being on the defendant to prove that that there was bias that affected the outcome of their case, why doesn't the state's highest court flip the burden and say the burden is on the prosecution to show that the bias of these characters did not affect the outcome of the case? Flip the burden of proof to them, because it seems to be so the notion that in every case with these guys, who in my opinion should be in jail, not just fired, the burden is on the defendant who they testified against, just seems to be wrong.
Yeah, it is wrong. And to the drug case, there are absolutely people in jail that should not be there, not just in this case, but everywhere. And it's always, just in the bigger picture, why is it always on their...
Exactly.
Why do they have to pay? Why do they have to get the lawyers? And the other part of this, which is going to come, if these cases get open, there are absolutely guilty, violent, terrible people who have been found guilty, investigated by Proctor, who may get off and get released because of this. So it's not just, it's just a horrific situation. And, just the audacity of Michael Proctor, when he thought just the texts that he sent about Karen Reed were going to come out, and telling everybody, he was a good guy and everyone's standing by him, and then you just pull back this curtain of disgusting text messages.
Can I say one more thing about this? For those who heard what you just said and said, well, somebody's done a horrible thing, may get let off, my attitude is, and I know it's easy for me because I was not the victim of their alleged crimes, that may be a price you have to pay for the bosses to take seriously. The notion that nobody in command knew what kind of person Proctor was and what a racist and misogynist is ridiculous. And only if the consequence of their behavior is immense will the people in charge say, we have to make sure to get rid of all these people in our midst.
Right, and as we celebrate our 250th anniversary, the founders wanted it to be the most difficult thing for the government to take your freedom away, right? That had to be a high burden that the government had to reach.
Great.
And Proctor is the government, and if this is how the government is working, even if you did, obviously, to your point, commit a terrible crime that you're clearly guilty of, the government still has to meet that high burden.
Great.
And Proctor, as the government, is not doing it.
We're talking to Sue O'Connell.
So the founder of Club Cafe has passed away. Tell people about him and about Club Cafe in the Back Bay.
So this is one of those things I was talking about, Frank Roboto, who just passed away in the newsroom at NBC 10 Boston, and trying to...
He didn't pass away in the newsroom.
No, he died. No, he died.
That
That was at the Herald. Someone died. That was somewhere else. That was...
That's right.
Frank, trying to describe to someone that the idea of having a restaurant was so revolutionary for the LGBT community. It's good news that it's shocking to try and tell that. Folks are familiar, Club Cafe is still alive and working and serving guests and serving up great music over on Columbus Avenue. You can fight about whether it's in the South End or Back Bay because Columbus divides the neighborhoods.
Point. Yeah, that's a good
but
point.
But we all claim it. And Frank, back in the early 1980s, started this restaurant above this gym that was there, and it was the only LGBTQ-focused restaurant, I think, in the entire region. And you could go there, and it wasn't a bar, it wasn't a nightclub. that was primarily where we would all gather. You could just go and have a drink after work at the bar or have a fine meal. And then later they expanded to allow VJs. They didn't have a dance license, which used to be funny. It's such a Massachusetts, Boston thing. They would show videos like in the 80s, but you couldn't dance because they didn't have a dance license for it. And Frank opened up the doors for LGBTQ meetings, for AIDS Action Committee meetings, Fenway community health meetings. Just was always the kind of business person that you want in your community that opened the doors to bring people in. But his key thing, as you walk along Columbus Avenue, where Club Cafe is, there's windows. There's sort of like a solarium. And Frank and the owners wanted to be sure that if we went out to eat in the early 80s as gay people and lesbians, we could sit in the window and be seen.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have to go to an unmarked place, which I know now is very coming back with the speakeasy idea. But, you know, that we could eat in a restaurant and be seen through a window and it wasn't going to be a dangerous situation.
So one of my fondest memories is doing pregnant aerobics at Club Cafe in 1984. They had a steam room down there too, which was beautiful.
Oh, you mean the gym below?
The gym below.
I think you were in a different place.
No,
yeah, the gym below.
The gym below. We had pregnant aerobics.
What night of the week was that?
Really
was
funny.
that after the fetish fair or before the fetish fair?
You see very pregnant women bouncing around in their aerobic class. Was
no, but
kind of a
Frank
riot.
was a very good businessman, a very generous with his time, and worked on a number of committees. So he's definitely going to be missed.
Can we go from welcoming to unwelcoming?
Yeah.
You know, there's a story about a cruise ship, LGBTQ themed and peopled, being denied port entry in Turkey and then in Egypt. And the thing I didn't understand about the story is why does a tourist want to give money to anybody in any place that discriminates against people like them?
All right, so apparently I have about 500 friends who are on this cruise. I mean, it's one of these things where I start like asking, and I've got my email box is filled with seven emails from people who are from Boston.
Is that really true on the ship?
Yeah, who are on the ship.
That's great.
And one of them wrote a guest opinion for us, an essay about his experience.
For Bay Windows?
Which is up at baywindows.com right now. So there's a company called Atlantis Cruises, which for decades has put together these themed LGBT gay male cruises, lesbian cruises.
Mm-hmm.
You all know that there are cruises. You could take a crime cruise. You can take a nature cruise. That's how we got the hantavirus. Remember, they had a nature cruise.
Oh.
That's how that happened. And they're a company that does these themed cruises. And my friends on the cruise represented to me that they were really excited about going to Turkey because you never really want to go to Turkey, and it was just going to be a cruise stop and a docking and then back on. And as one of my friends noted, if we only went to countries that welcome us, we'd never really get to leave and go anywhere, right? So
horrible.
There's always limits on what you can and cannot do. And so they're on the Virgin Scarlet, what's it, Scarlet Mary, I think the name of the Scarlet Lady, which I think is kind of funny, Scarlet Lady ship. And they were refused port at Turkey, and then they were refused port at Egypt because they did need to stop to go to the next place. And from the folks I've communicated with on the ship, they're less angry about Egypt because they weren't expecting to go to Egypt, and they know that Egypt doesn't love the gays either. But they're very angry, actually, at the cruise management of the Atlantis cruises, to your point, saying, why would we book a cruise to go to Turkey if it's likely that, a shipload of some 2,000 gay men shows up, they're not going to be happy and they don't want us in. And they're being very balanced, the people I'm talking to on the ship, like, look, it's their country. We understand their laws. We disagree with it. We think it's horrible. But why are we paying money to be on the ship when we're going somplace that could just easily refuse us? So
and what are the Atlantis people saying in response?
We haven't gotten any statement back. They're still trying to figure it out. But they are, they're just kind of left at sea, hanging out there. And they weren't refused explicitly from Egypt for being gay, but there's really no other reason that they would excuse them. So there's just a bunch of a gaggle of gay men from Boston floating out there trying to find a port in the storm. So
to speak. So the only story Marjorie really wanted to talk about with you, I made her wait till 3 or 4 stories down the line. Go ahead, Marjorie.
Well, Christopher Muther wrote a very funny piece about debating about whether the French are apparently banning shirtless men from, they can only be at the beach. They can't be walking to the beach without their shirts on. They can only be at the beach. And it brought up the issue of shirtless men in general. Now, do you have an opinion about this?
Well, I do have an opinion about shirtless men because I was shirtless a lot when I was a little kid, right? I mean, there are these great. What's funny about it is for like Father's Day, I like to post the same photos of my dad, and there's some photos of us in St. Petersburg on vacation when I'm 3 and 4, and I just have bikini bottoms on.
Well, you're 3
Oh,
and
my
4.
goodness.
But then Facebook keeps banning the photos because I'm sitting with them. I'm like, oh, good. I'm
Is
glad
that really
you.
true?
Yeah, I get like, oh, your photo was banned. I'm like, okay. So I was really unhappy as a child when I had to start wearing a bikini top. So I was angry about it.
You were.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then, as a teenager, with the same body issues that every teenager and girls particularly have, I would then go to Revere Beach and see these men with their shirts off, which were basically committing a crime against humanity.
Exactly.
And I would be like, well, why do they actually have breasts?
Yes.
And they get to take their shirts off.
Bigger breasts in
Yeah, why do I
medications,
have
right.
to keep my shirt on? But then, of course, you go to a beach where, nudity is encouraged, and you think, well, everybody should have clothes on at the beach. There's no doubt about it. So I agree with the French in trying to keep things...
Yep.
I imagine they're a little bit more fit than we are.
Well, Christopher Muther points out in his great piece, their claim is that this is about hygiene and decency there, but he points out that the average height in France for a man is 5'10" and 170 pounds. Now, in the United States of America, the average height is 5'9" and 200 pounds.
It is?
That's what he says.
200
in other words,
pounds for somebody 5'9" is average?
Well, the average height is 5'9". The average weight is 200 pounds.
200's a lot for an average weight.
His point is we're fat in
Yeah.
the United States,
We
which
are.
I think people know about, and that's why he says you'd much rather, if you're going to look at somebody shirtless, you'd rather have a French man than an American man surfing on the edge of obesity.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the French, and if I can extrapolate to Quebec and Canada, one of my first experiences of seeing a banana hammock was on the beach in Agunquit with my parents.
What was the guy like?
He was very thin, and he was with his family. And I remember my dad just going like, I'm going to get one of those. I'm going to start with
By the way, for the 3 people who don't know what a banana hammock is, you should explain.
It's a
please.
little thong-like bikini that
For a
some
guy.
men wear. For guys,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'm all of it or none of it. How's that? That's my opinion. Like, either take it all off or cover it all up.
Well, you know what's rather odd about the shirtless
Story?
man ban
Debate,
in
yeah.
France is when I went to France for the first time, I was not aware, maybe the only man who is not, that in the beaches, particularly the southern part of France, like Marseille and places like that, virtually all the women are topless.
Yes. Well, you know what?
So it's not a prudish society, unlike, for example, America and Boston in particular.
No.
It's not prudish at all.
All the kids in Europe have the same bathing suit.
Is that so, really?
Yeah, they're nude.
Well, that's an
Really?
interesting
Yeah,
I didn't
little
know
thing.
that.
So there's a lot of nude kids running around. Yeah, what are we doing here, Jim? We
Why-
don't know.
Why are you so into this story, by the way?
I just thought it was funny. I just thought it was a very
that's
funny
not
story
it.
that he...
Has
that
something to
he-
do with Cash Patel, I would assume.
Is
right?
it Cash?
Well, I don't know about has Cash Patel.
Do you want to see
I've never
Cash Patel without a shirt
No,
on?
I don't want to see Cash
She
Patel.
doesn't want to see him with a
in any
shirt
kind
on.
of- you know about his VIP snorkeling.
Yeah,
Oh,
listen.
and somebody emailed. I was right. I should have pointed this out before they texted. Rather, that the place he was snorkeling was by the graves,
yes.
sunken graves
It
of
was
Pearl
Hawaii.
Harbor.
I know that.
So there are
Where you're
people
not allowed
that
to
are
go, by the way.
deceased. You are not supposed to go there, and only people that go there get special permission. So he wanted to get special permission to snorkel above where all those men died
Yep.
at World War II in the Japanese attack.
I want to
Pearl
tag
Harbor.
on to your lying story conversation.
Please.
You know, when and having your children grow up with this presidency and this amount. So my kid went during Ruby during President Trump's first term. She had just started watching Veep, and we were watching Veep together, the Julie Louis-Dreyfus
Very
TV show.
funny.
Totally,
Yes.
totally watching Veep and enjoying it. And then right after the inauguration, Sean Spencer is on TV with this emergency press conference. Remember on a Saturday,
I do.
talking about the crowd size, and I'm turning it on in the living room, and I'm watching it, and my daughter walks in and looks and goes, "Are you watching Veep without me?" And I went, no.
It's a pretty good line.
No, that's Sean Spicer, and this is going to be your future for the next 4, 8, 12
That's
years.
pretty good.
So there
Now,
you go.
before you go, Sue is, I think if people listen to the show know, we've been friends for a long time.
Yes.
However, that is belied by the fact it doesn't go more than 2 weeks at a time that I don't get a text from Sue. What's the most recent text with the photograph I got from you?
I did the traffic report last week when there was an investigation that shut down 495. And again, in the newsroom, they said, we need someone to do traffic. And I raised my hand, I did the traffic, and I sent a picture to Jim.
And why'd you do that?
Because you want to do traffic.
I want to do traffic.
He wants to do traffic. He wants to do weather.
She does weather.
I did not know that.
My dream.
Oh,
One
his dream.
time, Matt Noyes allowed me to sort of do weather with him at NECM, but not really. But she does all this crap.
And do you know what I say when they ask me? They say, Sue, can you do it? And I say, yes. Jim Brownie's going to be so mad. And then TJ laughs, and then I send it, and I show,
But
look, he's
pretty
mad.
good, by the way.
Thank you very
Pretty good.
much.
Sue O'Connell,
We just
thank
have
you
to
so
point,
much.
too. It's really not that
Yeah,
difficult
okay.
to web. Yeah.
Say
All
hi
right,
to your
Sue
dentist,
O'Connell,
by
thank
the
you
way.
very much. I'm
Appreciate it.
sorry about your dental woes. That's
no,
terrible.
I'm all good now.
Okay, we've been speaking with Sue O'Connell. Do they have fluoride in Revere?
They have what?
Did they have fluoride in Revere when you were
They
a kid?
must.
I
yeah.
found out they did not have fluoride in my town. And that's that.
Well, I
blamed
just
my-
have Irish teeth, which
Oh,
means
okay,
I
Irish teeth,
barely
that's
have any
true.
teeth at all. So.
Okay, Sue O'Connell is a commentator with NBC 10 Boston, co-host of the podcast At Issue, the 2026 midterm elections, available every Monday. Thank you, Sue. Okay, almost 4,000 nurses at Brigham and Women's went on strike this week and were locked out yesterday. We will speak to nurses Kathleen Kelly and Jim McCarthy. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, live from the Boston Public Library. You know, when you take sight out of the equation, preparing a home-cooked meal becomes an exercise in acute attention to your other four senses. That specific tone of your sizzling steak, the faint burning aroma wafting from the pan. And yeah, a couple of taste tests never hurt anyone. Today we get a crash course in unseen cuisine. That's the Curiosity Desk, today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and Furniture Consignment Gallery.
We have 4 locations in Massachusetts. We're in Natick, Hanover, Plymouth, and Burlington.
Jay Frucci, owner.
Working with the GBH sponsorship team is very easy, and we're able to narrow down the key messaging. And it's always very concise, but it's very pointed, and we think we're able to communicate our value in a very valuable way.
To learn how GBH can benefit your business, visit gbh.org/sponsorship.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browder. You're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH. Kathleen Kelly and Jim McCarthy are both Mass General Brigham nurses. They were on strike for 24 hours a couple of days ago on what the union called the largest nursing strike in state history. Nurses prepared to go back to work yesterday at 7 a.m., but the hospital locked them out, telling them they can't get back to work until Monday because they have this contract supposedly with the fill-in nurses. When requested for comment, which we did this morning, Mass General sent us a statement. They didn't make anybody available. We will mention that in a minute. Kathleen is an endoscopy nurse. Did I pronounce that properly? Thank you. And Jim is a post-anesthesia care nurse. Jim and Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
And of course, I recognize Kathleen because she was a brilliant nurse in an undisclosed procedure that I had done. At the
For you?
Brigham. Yeah, she
How
did.
was she?
Fantastic.
Oh, my God.
Unbelievable.
Oh,
Brought
that's
me a
great.
lollipop when it was all over and everything.
Jim, did you ever take care of me or what, Jim? Did you ever do it? No.
I don't recall.
Okay.
Yeah, the Brigham is where my physician is. But anyway, how long have you been a nurse?
I have been a nurse since 1984.
1984, and you've been at the Brigham for how long?
I came to the Brigham kind of crazily in 2020.
2020,
So I've
okay.
been there for 6 years.
How about you, Jim? How long a nurse and how long at the Brigham?
I've been a nurse for 21 years, and I've been at the Brigham 20.
Jim, starting with you, why did this walkout begin? And by the way, I said the nurses' unit said it was the largest. It was the largest. That's a fact.
Yes.
Why did you walk out for 24 hours?
Basically, we wanted to make a statement to the hospital. We've been negotiating with the hospital since November. We've had our 23rd meeting last week, and unfortunately, the hospital is not budging on some very pertinent issues for the nurses. And because of that, again, they are not negotiating in good faith. We basically had to make a statement. So our statement is we're going out for a day, but they ended up locking us out for another 4 days. So they chose to lock us out. We were ready to go back to work on Thursday, but they locked us out until Monday. And now the hospital is being run by what we like to call scabs, people not familiar with the patient population. We're not even sure what their skill level is and how the care is going. And from my understanding, from our inside sources, it's not going very well.
One of the things I don't understand about this fill-in situation, Kathleen, the numbers I've read in the Globe coverage, and correct me if I'm wrong on either of these, there are 4,000 of you, is that correct?
Correct.
And there are 13,000 fill-in nurses. And while the management, again, we invite them on the show, 1,300, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Have gone out of their way to not only say the care is just as good, I heard them on the radio late last night saying, or even better was the line, which I don't think is terribly respectful.
Insulting.
How could 1,300 people, even if they were extraordinarily talented at their jobs, do the work of 4,000 people who know the place and know the hospital?
You tell me.
No, I'm serious. I mean, how's that work?
I know that the hospital hired highly skilled agency nurses. But how it works is when you're an agency nurse, you go into a hospital to help the nurses that are already there. The management says that they're going to be there to help these nurses, but when they come to us, we orient them. We show them where the supplies are. We know the policies. If there's an emergency, we know the departments to coordinate with. It's not just the nurses. It's lots of departments that have to coordinate. It's a process. And the administration is saying that they're going to be there to help these nurses. They cannot be everywhere at the same time. Mistakes
and just to be clear,
happen.
you all ready to go back to work the next day, and their contention is we had to sign a 5-day contract, so we have to continue them through Monday.
So Jim, I just want to say,
please.
This is not a decision we went into lightly. I became a nurse because I want to take care of people, as did all my great coworkers that are here with me supporting me.
Welcome to you all.
And yesterday when we had the lockout, it was so emotional. And I looked around after we were locked out. There were tears in everybody's eyes, even the tough guys. We did not want this to happen. We want to be back there. The hospital could pay these contracts off, and it would still cost them less money than it's going to cost this whole process. We want to be there taking care of our patients. Mistakes are going to happen. I really feel like the Department of Public Health needs to be in there to see what's going on.
We're talking to Kathleen Kelly and Jim McCarthy, 2 nurses of the 4,000 that were on a 1-day strike a couple of days ago at the Brigham.
The cliche you always hear, Jim, is that when you go to the hospital to have a baby or for some serious procedure or whatever, you see the doctor for 5 minutes and the nurse is there doing all the care. You're taking care of people after they come out of surgery, and sometimes you're taking care of people for many days. So there are people that you've developed a relationship with that have lost you.
Yeah. Throughout the hospital, we had a son of a patient who is a lung transplant, double lung transplant. He's been there since February, and and he came out and he was quite emotional. And he basically said, he goes, "I'm concerned about the care my father is getting because of what the level of care that he's getting because of these scab nurses that don't know the hospital. They don't know him as well as the nurses that work there know him as well too. It was emotional and." There wasn't a dry eye in the house when he said that yesterday. And that's the problem, because every minute, every hour, every day that they let the strike go on, there's going to be people that will be injured and there is going to be death. And it's statistically shown that basically that when you have scab nurses come into the hospital, the mortality rate increases anywhere from 20 to 30%, which is a frightening number to look at, because of we deal with the sickest of the sick. And these people coming in cannot do our jobs. They're not the Brigham nurses. And we know that hospital inside and out. And again, this is affecting people's safety and people's lives.
By the way, 2 things. The reason we're not going in depth into the issues is we can't do that in a handful of minutes. And the other side is not here. Healthcare costs, wages, there are those kinds of issues. And as we said, we invited management to join us. And they didn't, which is their right. And I would read from their statement if it didn't begin with the following. Today, Friday, July 10th, this is the statement from the hospital, the Massachusetts Nurses Association began the 3rd day of the work stoppage, which is not honest. I mean, obviously, there was a 1-day work stoppage, and now it's a 2nd day of a lockout that they chose to do. They're legally entitled to do it, but if the first sentence is not true, I'm really not ready to read. If you want to join us at any time and tell us your story, we're happy. Jim, can I go back to something Kathleen said a minute ago? When I was a young legal services lawyer representing poor people in the South Bronx, we went on strike. And sort of like Kathleen described, it was one of the hardest things to even, and that was longer than a day, to not represent these clients that needed us. How hard was this decision for you to begin with?
It's very difficult. I mean, it wasn't something come lightly. I'm a nurse there. My husband's a nurse there as well too. So we're both, out on that street. We're basically picketing as well too. We did not come to this decision lightly. It's basically the level of disrespect we get from the hospital, and it's shown in the negotiations. They just dig in their heels and they do not want to basically go forward with, negotiate at all. We told them we'll be there. You want to do it tonight? We'll be there tonight. You want to do it tomorrow? Anytime. But again, they're just holding the line. They don't want to meet with us, and they just basically, and again, they could have stopped it. They could have paid off the contract for those scab nurses and let us get back to work on Thursday. They didn't want to. They want to make a point, but as I said before, that point is going to cost people lives.
Well, not only that, it also stays, in my experience, it stays in the minds of the service providers about how they were treated, and that doesn't go away just the day you go back to work. Kathleen, what can people do who are listening, who care about this and who support what you're doing, or whatever their position is? How can they weigh in on this thing?
Well, first of all, I want to say that we have felt the support. It has been unbelievably powerful. There are patients on the picket line. That's there are other unions on the picket line. There was a marching band with us yesterday. We feel the solidarity. We feel the support. Patients are banging on the windows, giving us the thumbs up. I really feel like the city's got our back. So just keep talking to media, talk to MGB administration. We want to be back to work taking care of our patients.
And call elected officials. Mayor Wu, the governor, have urged people to get back negotiating. It hasn't worked, but keep putting pressure on your elected officials to tell them you want this dealt with and dealt with fairly. We really wish you luck, and we hope people will speak out in this situation, and we thank you both for your time and what you do.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
giving us
that.
Thank you very much.
And by the way, let me repeat, we invited the people who run the hospital. If they want to join us and give us their side of the story, we are more than happy to speak to them.
And when the phone don't ring, that'll be done.
Thank you,
We have been joined by Kathleen Kelly and Jim McCarthy, both nurses at Mass General Brigham, and thank you very, very much for coming in. After this quick break,
good luck to you both. Now
that Boston's fun with the World Cup is over, what do you hope stays with us beyond this weekend? More than bars staying up late and more drinking. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You've been listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, for decades, designers were told to shrink it and pink it when it comes to products for women, ignoring their different needs and leading to missed opportunities, discomfort, or even injury. Meet two women exposing and working to eliminate gender bias in product design. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And the Museum of Science. From live science demonstrations to hands-on exhibits, families can explore the wonders of Earth's evolution and the frontiers of space this summer. Learn more at MOS.org. And Gentle Giant Moving and Storage Company, offering local, long-distance, office, and piano moving with 23 locations throughout New England and across the country. More information at gentlegiant.com.
Welcome back to BPR on 89.7 GBH. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. They should have said earlier, we're done at 1 o'clock, but live at 1 o'clock here is the Curiosity Desk with Edgar V. Herrick III, and live at 2 o'clock is the Culture Show with Jared Bowen et al. So stick around. It's a great afternoon on a beautiful day here at the library. Final World Cup game at the so-called Boston Stadium, which I hate. I hate the name thing because of FIFA. It was last night. As you know, France defeated Morocco 2-0. And by the end of this month, the last vestiges of the international visit will be gone from the city altogether. The 3 a.m. last call, these hard-to-pin-down public drinking zones, the Tartan Army, all the other great international tourists have been there to root their teams on and all that sort of stuff. We had Mayor Wu here, I think it was yesterday, or I don't know when it was, but it was recently, 2 days ago. We asked her about keeping the late last call, what she thought about that, would she advocate for that? Here she is. So you're thinking of keeping it going beyond July 31st?
We would very much advocate for that.
You would?
I think in general, it's should be on cities to be able to make those decisions, and we are going to continue to advocate for keeping the momentum going. It's not just World Cup and summer events, but all throughout the year, there's something happening in Boston.
And by the way, she went on to explain to us the reason she can't just do it with the city council is incredibly, state legislature needs to approve continuing a lot of these rules, the drinking things and some other stuff. So we want to hear from you at 877-301-897. Beyond the, it's calling our text, beyond the public drinking, we know Bostonians would like that, obviously. What else do you want to see stick around once the World Cup leaves our shores? And I guess the question that comes before that, how did you feel about the last month? Was the quality of life, nightlife, the streets of Boston different in a way that you found more alive and engaging and inviting? And if it was, do you want to try to continue that? And what are the things you'd continue to keep that atmosphere alive in a city that is often criticized for not being a hell of a lot of fun? The massive fan watch parties. Why can't we do more of those for other events? Restaurants full of people you've never met before, people talking to each other. The number's 877-301-897. I said this yesterday. I was a total cynic about this whole thing. There really was I was wrong. There was a wonderful feel in town. And by the way, as great as the Scottish people were, it drives me nuts as if they were the only people here. Almost every fan group for almost every country really engage in the city. And you hear stories from friends and colleagues about people they encountered or bar on the street, all of which sound totally wonderful and the kind of thing we would love to have here around the clock, you know?
Well, the Fan Fest down at City Hall seemed to have worked out really, really well. A lot of people went to, you know, and go down there.
She said 160,000 people, I think she said.
It was huge. And then the watch parties, I mean, there's a lot of things you could have watch parties for. You know what I always thought was neat? And they do it in New York City a lot. They have outdoor movies in the summertime in the middle of Central Park, and all these people go down there to watch the movies in the great big...
We have that on the Esplanade, I think, a couple of Saturdays or something in summer,
but
I think.
But
it's not as widespread.
It's not as widespread.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize 30 million people watched the Americans play Belgium the other night. 30 million people. So there was obviously a lot of interest in this. But I think the late night, you know, we always get the bad rap. I mean, we're just hearing the gentleman, Patrick, talk about, you know, he's got the North End bar, and the North End...
Justin is his name.
They've had some problems. They've had some problems there with restaurants, and the neighbors get upset and everything. But you know what?
But it's not forced. If the bars are allowed to stay open until 3 a.m. past July 31st, you don't have to stay open.
You don't have to stay open,
and
if you're behaving yourself and you're making sure
Yeah.
there's not extra noise or extra trash or something like that, wouldn't it be nice to have a little bit more of a late-night feel here?
I'm totally, and by the way, I love your idea. The notion of that there being screens in places where people could come and they could bring your kids, and I think it's a really nice feel. And you know what? I'm going to only say this once because I don't want to ruin the spirit of this thing. What do you think of the fact that the people on Beacon Hill need to say yes to the drinking rules for these to continue? Why should anybody who is not a Boston elected official have a role in deciding if Boston within its borders should allow bars to stay open until 3 or have these drinking zones?
Well, you know, it's almost like we're going to have a revolution here to get cities to be able to do the things that they want to do without permission from the do-nothing legislature. Yeah, I mean, rent control, the legislature's involved in. Why should they be able to prevent? And, you know, I was hearing in the news this morning coming in, New Bedford wants to have this recall, the ability to recall a badly behaving politician. They're going to get that approved by the legislature, too. They shouldn't be involved in any of this stuff.
Okay, so people are texting saying the World Cup isn't over. We know it's not over. We're talking about the last Boston match at Boston Stadium Was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. By the way, Bobby in Wakefield says, I'll miss the cones on statues. I saw a statue somewhere downtown yesterday that still had a cone on top of it. And by the way, I didn't understand it then. I don't understand it now, even though I read about it, but it was sort of nice and that sort of stuff. But I think, you know what step one is? There was, I'm not, as you know, I'm not a very social person, and I don't go up to people and say hello, and I'm not that whatever. I try to be polite at least. But there was a lot of that people talking to people they didn't know. And that sort of mindset is pretty foundational for this to work, you know?
Well, I sort of have a selfish thing, too. You know, the United States is getting such bad
That's a great point.
press all around the world, and people have stopped liking Americans. They certainly don't like the president in all these different countries to come here and see that, you know, Americans are not Donald Trump. You know, that Americans are very friendly. Well, some are, but Americans are much more friendly and open than I think people expected, and I think they had a wonderful experience here. And people talked about what they saw all around Boston and what they saw before that in New York and all the places where the games are being played.
Let's go to Kristen. We'll get to you in a minute. Kristen in Arlington, you're first on BPR. Welcome. Hi.
Hi, guys. I'm your Wawa Pretzel Fairy.
Oh, hey, Kristen. How are you? Nice to talk to you.
Hi.
Hi, guys. I wanted to just share my experience as a freelance photographer.
Oh, great.
I went into the city and spent a couple of days photographing all the fans, but there were so many Scottish fans. That's the majority of what my work was, but there was a sense of energy and camaraderie that was so magical that my adrenaline was pumping for days, and I kept saying to people, if you weren't there, you can't describe the feeling, but I felt like I was in the middle of something historic because everybody was saying, Americans are amazing. We've been lied to, too. Like, you're not your government. And, I mean, I lived around the corner from a house. I was tipped off that there were 8 Scottish guys staying, so I put a note on their windshield of their car and said, I hear you're drinking the state dry. We have beer. Come on over. They called me 2 minutes later, and within 5 minutes, there were 2 guys with kilts walking up my street.
That is so great.
And then they left they called me the next day and said, we're freaking out. We left clothes at the house, and we're at the airport to Miami. So I went back to the house, grabbed the clothes, FedExed them to their hotel in Miami with 3 packets of ranch dressing.
That's Kristen, you know, if you email us to bprwgbh.org, is that our email? Yeah. If you email us some of your photos, we'll put them up next week during the show.
Wait. Okay, wait. Let me write it down.
Well, I'll put you on hold. I'll put you on hold, and a producer
Okay,
will give you the email. Send us pictures, and we'll be happy to share them with the audience. Thanks for the thing. By the way, a lot of people, Ann and JP, more men in kilts.
Yeah, you may be sick of hearing about it, but clearly there are some people who aren't, including Ann from JP. Thank you for the text.
By the way, I'm not saying I was sick of talking about the Scots, but it's almost like no other nationality was here.
Well, they were the only ones in kilts.
Well, they were.
It was really easy to pick them out, you know, from
what
the
they
rest
wear
of the
under
crowd.
kilts?
Nothing.
Okay, that was a conversation stopper.
Sophia in Cambridge, thank you for calling.
Hi, Sophia.
Hey, greetings. I called when we actually were going into the World Cup about what we had hoped Boston could be.
And what did you
would we
say?
be a
Remind
welcoming
us.
city?
What did you say?
So I said that not only should Boston be Boston strong, but we should be Boston kind.
Oh.
And I think that that's the one thing that I would love to carry on, is that we continue to be a model city of states that are really pushing against Trump's message of hate.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case, World Cup or no World Cup. But, Sophia, thank you very much for the call. You know what someone...
I've been corrected here.
What?
The outdoor movies in New York City are in Bryant Park. That's in Brooklyn, I think, isn't it? Not Central Park. And outdoor movie screening... What?
Bryant Park is Manhattan. Hannah just told us.
Oh, Manhattan. Okay, thank you.
I only lived there for 15 years, so I didn't know the answer.
Well, there's some B Park in Brooklyn, and I forget what it's called. Anyway, there's an outdoor movie screenings, and here's a partial list. It bought the Boston Harbor Hotel and the Hatchell and the Prudential Center and the Speedway in Brighton. Did you even know that?
Well, I told you there were films at the Esplanade, but the answer is they got to be publicized more too, and people talk about it. But I think, don't you think there's an appetite for that more than there was before? Even if you knew about it and you didn't go, now you sort of realize what getting together with other people is sort of fun and a good thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've not been to the outdoor movies, but I have been to Shakespeare on the Common, which is a wonderful thing. It's for free. You can go down there with your blanket blanket.
Midsummer Night's Dream,
Yeah,
July 22nd,
that's a really great
I think.
thing, and just sit outside, and you can bring your dogs with you and bring your kids with you. You don't have to worry about them making noise because they can kind of run around.
877-301-8970. What did you like? Assuming you didn't. By the way, if you didn't like the last month, you should feel free to tell us that too. If you really like the feel of this city and its surroundings in the last month, what is it that you'd like to replicate post July 31st when the rules around drinking change and all this other stuff disappears? I don't. Can you tell us what the date of the World Cup final is too? I don't know what that is. July 19th, at least one of our colleagues, Hannah knows. Carla in Seattle, welcome to the show. Hi, Carla, how are you? Oh, you went to the match the other night, didn't you?
Yes. And
how was that?
All that game was just, follow up, and it was so much fun to go to the game. I've been to the Egypt versus Iran game during our Pride Week, and that was actually my favorite game because both governments tried to make it a big deal that there would be, unrest because we wanted to celebrate Pride Week with these two seemingly other governments that, are opposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
But all the fans, it was a big nothing burger, and we all had such a great time and danced in the streets afterwards.
That's by the way, that was I should know this. The game you went to was the U.S.-Belgium game. Is that right, or am I wrong?
Yes. Yes.
So it was huge fun, despite how horrible the game was.
I know, but it was so funny. My friends and I, we were, prior to the game, we were there taking in all the vibes, and we kind of laughed and said, if we didn't know any better, this looks like a Trump rally with all those stars and stripes.
Well, it sounds like it was fun despite the outcome. Carla, thanks for the call. Now, by the way, you go first.
Okay, Carolyn in Boston said the MBTA stations and subway cars were kept so clean. It would be great to keep them that way the rest of the time. I didn't realize there was specially
Phil Lang is
spruced
here
up.
on August 5th, I think. And we can ask him about this. Now, here, anonymous texter, I can't believe you didn't say this. Anonymous texter, the Esplanade. Oh, la la, Jim, this isn't France. How do you pronounce the Esplanade?
I thought it was the Esplanade.
How are you supposed to say it? Anonymous texter, text us back and say what I should have said if I wasn't trying to be French influenced. The number is 877-301-8970. I had no interest in getting tickets to a game. I don't know if I could have gotten tickets to a game. In retrospect, are you sorry you didn't go to a game?
No.
Why? Because of the back and forth?
Yeah, I'm not big on those kinds of big, huge things.
It's called a game, Margaret.
I know.
It's called a soccer game or football game.
I can watch it on TV or go to a watch party. I like to watch those kinds of things in bars.
Did you go to a watch party?
No, I didn't.
Did you go to a bar?
Did you do all these things?
Am I asking you first? Did you go to a bar?
No, I'm boring. I sat at home.
Did you go to a watch party?
I did not. Well, that's not true. My kids, who are big into this, I watched some of the soccer games with them.
In your house?
They brought the TV outside. They brought the TV outside.
Oh, it was on Cape?
On the Cape. We watched it in the back porch.
Well, that's sort of like a watch party.
Yeah, it was kind of like
thing.
a watch party, not with 200 people.
I actually went to City Hall for each of the watch parties, for each of the games.
You are so
and
full
it was
of baloney.
it was fabulous.
Okay. There's this whole story about how sports, from time.com, talking about how sports make people happy. Bill McKibben, who's a big climate change guy, comes down with us all the time, who has one of the most depressing jobs in the world, watching climate change get worse and worse and worse, and the government not doing anything about it. What does he do?
He always has a Red Sox hat on.
He has the Red Sox, and they talk about how sports matters. And the other thing they talk about...
No, because it's unifying, they argue, that it crosses partisan lines.
But also the structure to life.
What do you mean?
Well, because basketball is the wintertime, and soccer usually in schools is in the fall, and you get baseball in the spring. It gives a order to your life to have these different seasonal sports. I thought it's structure to your life. Anyway, I think that kind of makes sense.
By the way, the anonymous texter did follow up and said, I apparently said Esplanade. Esplanade.
Okay.
I may have done that too.
We have some people who said they are joining the nurses' gym picketing at the Brigham right now. And several people have told me I was wrong. Okay, I was wrong.
About what?
Bryant Park. It's not in Prospect Park. Is in Brooklyn.
That isn't with the B, though. You said it started with a B.
I know. I goofed it up. I've been there many times.
This whole thing is coming apart. Luckily, it's almost over. You know what I mean? Doesn't that, that occasionally happens. We used to have a 3-hour show, and you would think on a 2-hour show, we wouldn't wind down unintentionally as early as we some days do. But don't you feel like we're winding down without intending
Well,
to
we have
wind down?
we have a special event today that we're winding down for.
That is correct.
Yeah. By the way, we didn't mention it. We should have mentioned it when Foley's was here. They're doing a big, huge outdoor beer kind of garden thing down in Dennis or Dennisport in the summer. Foley's the same one that runs the
They
bar.
are, I know, but that
Yes,
wasn't what they want. What are you eating over there?
French fries.
Well, yeah. Can we turn Edgar's
Thank you
mic
very
on?
much. Thank you very much.
I don't know. I don't take it if it's offered. I take it when no one's looking. I'm not
Did you
interested.
know, believe it or not, and I can't believe because we were talking about French fries yesterday. Today,
I was here for that.
apparently, is National French Fry
That is
Day.
not.
I'm dead serious.
Unbelievable.
How did we miss that?
I don't know.
Well, 2 people applauded.
So I don't know how we missed it. You
do
were saying Esplanade, by the
I
way.
was?
Yeah, you were.
Well, I feel
because
better.
I said to Aiden down there, I was like, why does Jim say Esplanade?
Do you go to the Esplanade?
I've been to the Esplanade,
Esplanade.
but I wouldn't say that I go to the Esplanade.
Je voudrais aller.
Je ne
okay.
parle pas
Now,
français.
how do you feel about the atmosphere that was in the city during?
I think it's been amazing.
Yeah.
I think, and I
Oh,
you
you
know,
did that World Cup thing.
we did the
Obviously,
World
yeah.
Cup thing. I was at one of the matches, and I was just out.
What game did you go to?
I went to the very first game, Scotland-Haiti.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty incredible.
Was
How did you get
everyone in
tickets,
kilts
if I
in the
may ask?
stands?
Everybody's wearing kilts in the stands. One of my best friends in the world is
That's great.
in the UK. He's from Scotland. He brought us kilts, so we were kilted up. But
You were in a kilt?
Do you
I
have
was in a
photographs?
kilt.
Oh, my
I do have
God.
photographs.
Can you bring it on Tuesday when we're
I
back?
absolutely
Aren't they
cannot
hot?
bring
They're
it on
wool.
Tuesday. We
Aren't they very-
we are not
We
sharing
got to
photos
end
of
like
me in a
30
kilt.
seconds
Yeah,
early.
yeah,
today.
go,
You'll
go,
see
go.
in a minute. So just tell us quickly what you're doing in your
Well,
show.
kind of like what you were talking about. We're going to take a look at Boston and whether the party can keep going, but also by looking back and asking the question, like, has it always been sleepy here at night? We've got some great people we're going to talk about back in the day when we had the Combat Zone and Scully Square, and has it always been sort of?
Well, I hope your
sleepy at
discussion
night?
is better than the one that Marjorie and I conducted, because both of us did a horrible job. Edgar, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for. We'll be listening. He'll
Okay.
be here live. Jared live right after him.
Yeah, thanks for listening to another edition of BPR 89.7. People that came down to the Boston Public Library, really appreciate it.
Can we skip all the thank
We'll
yous?
skip all
and get
this.
to cut to the chase here
because
today?
it is Nicole Garcia's last day.
That is Nicole Garcia
That's
right
right.
there,
She's
whose
leaving
uncle
us.
snuck in to the band.
Yep. In Telemundo to work
Wait
as
a-
Nicole is most famous, of course, for giving us our wonderful Am I the A-Hole segment and for our great TikTok page. I mean, she has wonderful stuff on the TikTok
She is
page.
wonderfully creative.
Very-
You are a
she's
fabulously
out-of-the-box
warm
thinker.
and smart and creative program, and we're going to really miss you. You are spectacular, and it's not too late to stay, by the way. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
if you're really leaving,
Yeah.
you take your uncle.
Yeah.
Can we hear it for Nicole Garcia, one
Yes.
of the finest people we've ever been lucky enough to work with?
We want to mention that Jim and I have the day off on Monday, but Jamie Bologna, our producer, and Sue O'Connell are going to be filling in for us, and they'll do a great job. They're going to talk with Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Young, former education secretary, Paul Revel, BMC's Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett, and they're going to sample some wine from Bondi Fine
Bond,
Wines.
too.
Bond Fine Wine, excuse me.
Can I say one
Bond
thing?
Fine Wine
So
Shop.
one of our producers will not be here Monday because she's moving on to a new
Yep.
wonderful job. One of our producers will be co-hosting the show, which means the show will be an unmitigated disaster. Is that safe to assume on Monday?
No.
Disaster.
Okay.
Exactly.
Zoe Matthews, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss,
Disaster.
Ariana Gonzalez,
So tune
John
in.
Claude Parker, Jamie Bologna, Matty Guy, Patrick
Can you
Valley,
hurry?
Bill
I've gotta
Francis,
go to the
Juan Jose
Esplanade.
Cadena, Darius and Derek, Newsfeed Cafe, and the gang at the Lennox Hotel. The Curiosity Desk is right after us.
Stick
and then
around
the
for
Culture
the shows.
Show.
Thanks for
Thanks so
coming,
much for
everybody.
tuning in.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's how-tos and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Maine Maritime Museum. Their new exhibit, Resounding, highlights the resilience and traditions of Maine's indigenous and Black maritime communities, featuring both historic artifacts and contemporary art. MaineMaritimeMuseum.org. And Newbury Court, serving Concord, Massachusetts for 30 years as a not-for-profit continuing care retirement community dedicated to older adults. More at newburycourt.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III, today on the Curiosity Desk, live from the Boston Public Library. Well, right now, as we speak, there's an invasion happening off the shores of Massachusetts. It's not pirates or aliens, but clams. Delicious clams. Today's curiosity question, can we eat our way out of this ecological quagmire? After that, with the World Cup in town, Boston's been enjoying a renaissance in its long-maligned nightlife scene. But will any of the hoopla last? And was the Boston of yore as party-hardy as we remember it? Plus, when you take sight out of the equation, preparing a home-cooked meal becomes an exercise in acute attention to your other four senses. That specific tone of your steak sizzling, the faint burning aroma wafting from the pan. And yeah, a couple of taste tests never hurt anyone. We meet Chef Rick behind Unseen Cuisine this hour on the Curiosity Desk.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is refusing to sign a bipartisan affordability bill intended to lower the cost of housing and encourage more home construction. On social media, the Republican leader said he was protesting Congress's inability to pass a strict voter identification bill with the country well into midterm primary season. Trump had 10 days until today to sign or veto or allow the legislation to take effect at midnight without his signature. The administration has ousted the remaining leadership at the Election Assistance Commission. This leaves the independent agency in a precarious position heading into November's midterm elections. We have more from NPR's Ashley Lopez.
The White House says it has removed the last few commissioners of the Election Assistance Commission. This is an independent agency created in the wake of the 2000 presidential election, a close race plagued by administrative errors. The agency has since helped provide election officials with resources and has collected data about how elections went. The EAC was created to have 4 commissioners. At the beginning of this year, one Republican member abruptly resigned, and now another is also resigning. The agency's 2 Democratic members, however, were removed. Ashley Lopez, NPR News.
President Trump says Iran asked to keep negotiating an end to hostilities, and the U.S. agreed, but that the June ceasefire was over. He gave an update on social media today after 3 Qatari and Saudi commercial tankers came under fire this week and led to retaliatory strikes between the war rivals. Joseph Votel is a retired 4-star general and served as commander of U.S. Central Command from 2016 to 2019. On NPR, Votel was asked if he believed Iran was willing to risk prolonged war with the U.S. to maintain control over the Strait of Hormuz.
I think that's a big takeaway out of just these last 72, 96 hours, that Iran is principally focused on permanent sovereign control of the Straits of Hormuz, and they are willing to accept the risk of large-scale conflict before they're willing to relinquish it.
Goldman Sachs is prohibiting employees from betting on prediction markets such as Polymarket and Kalshi. NPR's Bobby Allen reports on the latest investment firm to warn staff against abusing confidential information.
Prediction markets offer betting on many topics involving finance, whether it's a company's quarterly earnings or what an analyst will say on an investor call or when a company will introduce a new service. The new rule from Goldman Sachs prohibits employees from placing bets on future outcomes related to finance, corporate America, elections, or geopolitics. It does allow for employees to wager on sports and entertainment. Billions of dollars are traded every week on prediction market sites, which are largely unregulated. Despite the new rule, Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon said earlier this year that prediction markets were, quote, super interesting, and that he had met with prediction market executives over possible partnerships. Bobby Allen, NPR News.
It's NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Attorneys general from every New England state have joined a national bipartisan effort pushing for a federal crackdown on spam calls. WSHU's Molly Ingram has more.
49 attorneys general, you heard that right, 49, want the Federal Communications Commission to strengthen its rules. They say it would cut off scammers' access to legitimate telephone numbers. Last year, Americans lost nearly $2 billion to 30 billion spam calls. The coalition of AGs is proposing a new set of FCC rules. They include stronger certification requirements for companies who buy and sell phone numbers and regular reports from those companies to help law enforcement trace the numbers. For the New England News Collaborative, I'm Molly Ingram.
The owner of the popular fashion chain Zara has just spent $234 million on the Kensington building in Boston's Theater District. Public records show that Spanish billionaire Amancio Ortega, who founded Zara, has acquired the 27-story, 381-unit multifamily tower from Kensington Investment. The deal was first reported by Banker and Tradesman, saying it's the largest multifamily investment sale in Boston this year. And the site, well, it's got historical significance. Back in the early 1900s, it was home to the Gaiety Theater, long before that area became known as the Combat Zone. Cloudy upper 80s today. We're at 85 in Boston right now. I'm Henry Santoro. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Subaru. The 2026 Subaru Outback features new styling as well as standard symmetrical all-wheel drive and EyeSight driver assist technology. Learn more at Subaru.com/Outback.
Welcome to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are live at the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, we're going to kick things off with our Friday menagerie of misfit news. This is a little thing we call In Case You Missed It. And in case you missed it this week, an Australian elephant seal named Neil made his triumphant return to Tasmania. This was international news. There were multiple videos of Neil that went viral online, knocking down traffic posts, sleeping in the middle of the road like some sort of Tasmanian devil. Meanwhile, off the coast of Cape Cod, a different kind of invasion. A team of biologists led by UMass Amherst just confirmed the presence of the Manila clam along the Atlantic coastline here. Yes, the Manila clam is here. Upon hearing the news, Neil the seal apparently made his exit from Tasmania to potentially try his luck in the delicious northern waters. With us now to discuss these very important stories and more, including entropy fighting in its purest form in white-collar backyards, is GBH's Tori Bedford, nightside anchor who's recently been anchoring Morning Edition for us here at GBH. And joining her today is CC Paschal. CC's a freelance filmmaker, Peabody Award-winning audio journalist, formerly with NPR's Louder Than a Riot. Tori, CC, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Hey, thanks for having us. Yes. Happy Friday.
So we're going to start with the Manila clam, which apparently, and I'm just going to read the headline here that caught my eye on this because it's a good headline. Invasive but, quote, delicious clams confirmed
that
along
feels like
the
propaganda.
Massachusetts coastline. So apparently this stretches all the way back to 2023, the first sightings off of Cape Cod of some strange-looking weird clams. This is when we were first apparently alerted to us. And then recently, as we were saying, some scientists were out on the harbor islands, out on Spectacle Island, and they were like, well, let's kind of check it out. And they found a whole bunch. Well, possibly with their forks. I don't know what they were digging with, CC. But what do we make of the Manila clam and its invasion here in our waters?
I do think it's convenient that they're delicious.
Convenient to whom?
It's like trying to tell me that venison tastes good. I don't know.
Well, they're among the things of the populations that we have to control. It's up to us. I mean, I think this could be an opportunity for like a little hyper-local surf and turf. Yeah, a little invasive, invasive clam, a little invasive deer, a little...
I know what that they were saying.
Not invasive Neil. We're not going to eat Neil, just for the record.
Leave Neil alone.
We're not. We'll get to Neil the seal in a minute, but we are definitely not going to eat Neil the seal. I don't think.
My thing with the story was like they kept saying these clams were weird, and I understand that they're saying that because they're not from the area.
Yeah.
Which is also very New England to be like, who's this weird clam? Okay, you be like a local fish.
I think you
ready, and I'll be the clam. Ready?
Hey.
Hi. Hello, princess.
Hey, come here often?
Hi.
I'm a weird clam.
Yeah.
Did I miss the day in clam school when they taught us how to be normal?
I think so, yes.
I mean, baseline clams are kind of weird.
That's how the clams
anyway,
talk.
right? Like, I mean, just baseline.
But why?
clam.
What makes these clams so weird? They're just from everywhere else except here.
Yeah.
That's a very New Englander mentality.
So, I mean, there's xenophobia around, quote,
clam
weird
xenophobia.
clams.
Here we go.
Aside, I'm interested in what this could mean for our expanding palates. I mean, there's this idea in gardening, right, where you want to eat the invaders, and this just kind of seems like the sea version of that. And we've already have established that the ocean is full of monsters. To quote Megan Thee Stallion, it is monster soup.
Yeah.
So I feel like if the ocean is trying to figure out how to prepare and eat us, like we should also be on
eating the ocean.
We need to be on the offensive, yeah.
Maybe this is why the propaganda about them being delicious, because I think somebody, somewhere up the food chain, knows that we need to eat these clams to survive.
I'm just glad, we don't have to think about this stuff.
We could make a New England clam chowder. Think about that.
Because humans are invasive,
This
too.
does, well, the invasive thing, on a more serious note with this, the invasive thing I do find interesting, because it is sort of like... what is the line between something that is just new here and will potentially naturalize? We don't know. I mean, I guess we know because this has been an invasive species in other parts of the world. But, for example, horses are an invasive species. We have horses. People aren't worried about horses, right? So do we necessarily even need to be
I'm
worried?
worried about horses.
I don't know, but...
I don't know.
I love glue, and I love horses, and I want those
God.
things mutually exclusive.
Oh, my God.
All right, well,
you ate a little too much of it in elementary
We're
school.
going to go to Tasmania for a minute and get into Neil the Seal. So in case you missed it, Neil the Seal is basically like he is the top star of the internet this week, I think. And it's not his first turn, because one of the amazing things about these elephant seals is apparently they have to come to the land every couple of months, twice a year usually, and they go back to where they were born. They go back there and they sort of shed some of their fur and they get some new skin. And this seal here in Tasmania has been doing that for some time. But it's unique because he is a boy elephant seal. He's huge. He's wreaking havoc. He's got a big following on Instagram. He's got an enormous following on TikTok. In case you missed it, here's a little sound, an explainer from ABC News. And this is Australian ABC News, not ABC here in the USA. Here we go.
From smashing street signs to blocking roads and causing a commotion, Neil the Seal has become a star attraction in Tasmania, even if he spends most of his time fast asleep.
It's pretty exciting. He kind of just looks like a big lump of rock from over here, but he's very cute.
He's naughty, he knocks down stuff, and I like doing that too.
There's a lot of other stuff going on that's negative, and to have this bit of positivity, especially down here, is wonderful.
Neil the Seal, what do we make of Neil? Have you two been following Neil the Seal?
No. I mean, he's been forced. He's everywhere, so you can't get away from him.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love about Neil the Seal is how he's been taken up as like this folk hero. You know, he's out here. He's knocking down signs. Oh, you don't want me in that roadway? I will exclusively be in that roadway. you want that Toyota Camry to be upright? Not me, fam. And
Wasn't there a turkey that we talked about who was similar to that?
Here in Boston?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
I'm
day
sure.
that we blew up the radio station.
Were we talking about a turkey?
Yeah, there was a turkey that was also ungovernable.
Yeah.
Governable.
Ungovernable.
Thank you.
Like Neil the Seal.
Well, I think that's part of Neil's appeal.
Neil the Seal's appeal?
Neil the real deal Seal's appeal for me is the fact that he's just reminding everybody that they too can be free. They too have free will, and I think he looks good while doing it. Have you seen these glamour shots of him? He's just like,
he looks amazing. Although there is again there's the potential dark side. One of the things, there was some official who said no. Listen, there was an official who said we got to be careful with these kinds of things. This isn't the only example of like a wild animal of some sort going viral for like fun and like interesting behavior to us. But this official, I think their line was, you got to be careful not to love them to death, which is to say people are rolling up. They're trying to take pictures with Neil the Seal, who is a wild animal. They're bringing their kids close, etc. They've got like animal control people who have got to keep an eye on Neil the Seal. And like you don't want something to go wrong and Neil the Seal to have to be killed.
I just feel like Neil the Seal wouldn't have that problem if he ever came here, because we our xenophobia would really work in his favor. We would be like, who's this weird seal guy? Get him out of here, you know? And so maybe that's a way that we can help save him from ourselves.
Final thoughts for you, Tori, on Neil the Seal?
Bless him.
Bless him.
Bless his heart.
Bless him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move closer to home. I mean, speaking of things that made waves on the internet, there was a wedding last week, pretty high-profile wedding. And CC, this is something you brought to our attention. An artist in New York has been collecting some of the trash from outside of the wedding of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and is now selling it. You too can get your hands on a little bit of New York City garbage from outside of the venue the day of the wedding.
Outside, but actually has already sold out because it's so popular.
This is all sold out?
It's all sold out already, yeah, because people want to be a part of this moment so much. And this guy, this artist, he does this for a lot of like big monumental events that happen in New York. And I think, like, you know, as a person who, myself speaking, is both an artist and a person who has paid rent in New York, I gotta admire the hustle, because he's out here doing the Lord's work for, well, I was going to say for free, but for profit.
Yeah, it's the American way.
It's the American way, and the best part is, it's like, it's selling you the idea of an idea. It's like a simulacra of being near somebody who was outside the venue, who maybe walked by. You know, it's not even guaranteeing that this was, in fact, like trash or detritus from these famous people who were
No. And in fact, in full disclosure, I think he was basically like, listen, I was not invited to the wedding. This is not trash from inside the venue. This is literally just trash from around where it happened outside, and is probably not at all trash from inside the venue.
But, I mean, you got to think that who among us has not accidentally like walked around with a piece of toilet paper on our shoe or something? There's got to be some accidental Tay-Tay trash in there. And considering some people even called the wedding itself trashy, given its venue and the whole, you know,
A little tacky.
A little
gauche.
tacky.
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know, there's a market for it, and you know, this is historic. This is Taylor Swift's wedding. Like,
I find it very offensive because I was invited to the wedding. And I don't think that we should be making light of that. They said if you were under a certain income threshold, you could go, and it was sort of like a gladiator space where Taylor would hunt you for sport with a crossbow.
That's beautiful.
And all the other billionaires got together, and I escaped, fortunately, with pieces of trash. But yeah, it was, you know, it's not something to make light of.
The most dangerous game, live at Madison Square Garden.
Love is the most dangerous game.
You're listening to The Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Tori Bedford and CC Paschal. This is In Case You Missed It, our menagerie of misfit news, making sure you saw these very important headlines this week. Well, in case you missed it, there was a piece in the Wall Street Journal this week, July 8th, describing how the perfect lawn has become blood sport for, or status symbol for a particular breed of white-collar men. We've got actually a little bit of sound.
Wait, let me set this up.
You want to set this up? Yeah, go ahead, Tori.
Because, okay, Callum Borchers wrote this piece, and I understand he's making fun of these people. It's men who become obsessed with their lawns, and it's a sort of a power thing, and, you know, they work at a desk job, and then they have these beautiful, pristine lawns. And there's a line in here that kind of irked me, where he says that their lawns they're not powered, their lawnmowers are not powered by gasoline but testosterone or something. And I just want to assure you that within the lawn freak community, there are plenty of women and, you know, I'm sure non-binary people as well. But just for anyone who went through perhaps maybe slightly manic episode a couple summers ago where
you got obsessed with your lawn.
Became completely upset, dug up all the grass and then replanted all the grass, and then was looking on YouTube for tips about how to, you know, to get the dead grass out and the best things. And so I found this community on YouTube of men who are obsessed with their lawns, and what I shared this because I think it demonstrates what the true purpose of it is.
So this is a YouTuber, Alan Hain, the lawn care nut. So we're going to hear a little bit. This comes to us from Tori. This is the lawn care nut explaining why so many men feel the innate urge to perfect their lawn.
Hi, I'm Alan Hain, and I'm the lawn care nut. Now, you watch this channel probably because you want some lawn tips, and that's what I give out here generally. But I'll tell you, there's one real reason that I do this channel, and one real reason is why you probably watch and don't even know it. And that is so you can dominate, like you see me doing here. Dominating my neighbor. And so today, that's what the video is all about. I'm going to give you tons of tips, next level tips, on how you can dominate your neighbor at your house starting this weekend.
It's all about lawn mogging your neighbor.
See, the thing I genuinely do not know if he is kidding or not.
Yeah, I don't know. His lawn looks good, though.
I think he was incredibly serious. I mean, it's giving colonizer. You know, I know. I'm always just out here ruining the party. But, I mean, to the fact that all the grass has to be straight and, like, lined up in the same way.
And it's so bad for the environment.
Like, can't they be creative about the whole domination spectacle, like in the wild or something?
Well, I have a friend who is a woman, believe it or not, and she only plants, like, indigenous, non-invasive plants that are native to New England, speaking of native species.
Well, no, I think there is a distinction between the like I'm doing yard work kind of thing, what you're talking about, which is like you're planting things, you're sort of managing, you're working in communion with nature to sort of make something happen, versus there is something, if you get to a certain level when you're talking about a lawn, just grass.
Well, that's where I was at, because
you know I mean?
I wanted nice grass for my elderly Chihuahua. And you find yourself all of a sudden in these conversations with men talking about blade height.
Yeah.
And, you know, grass maxing.
All right, you ready for this?
Species of seed.
Top comment on this Wall Street Journal piece. Here, I'm going to read it out. This is about more than status. A lawn is entropy fighting in its purest form.
Mm-hmm.
The universe wants your yard to be chaos, weeds, uneven growth, blurred edges, and every Saturday you tell it no. That's civilization in miniature. Everything the West ever built, from aqueducts to the power grid, is the same move. Impose order on disorder.
It's so,
Giving colonialism. I said it.
Colonize your yard.
Colonize your yard.
And
Bring
dominate
it to
your
submission
neighbors.
Under your control.
It is man versus nature.
As it should be, I guess. I mean, we don't
No.
want all those nature's taken over. We just had this. What about the invasive clams and the invasive deer and the invasive neels?
Well, now we got invasive species of grass and all this other stuff.
All the grass we have already is an invasive species.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You're listening to The Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Tori Bedford and CC Paschal. This is In Case You Missed It. Well, one that folks might have missed this week, because I think this really did fly under the radar. And speaking of nature, you know, nature has the sun each day, and that sun is up for a certain period of time wherever you are, and you got to kind of manage that, right? Well,
cannot grow anything.
The debate about daylight saving, which has been going on for a long time, continues. But we learned this week that the U.S. House of Representatives next week is going to vote on a bill that would make daylight saving permanent. So just to catch you up on where we're at with this, the House Energy and Commerce Committee already voted 48-1 in its favor. The Senate has already said unanimously we should keep daylight saving full-time, and now the House is actually going to vote on it. This looks like we could be ticking toward keeping daylight saving year-round, which means no clocks going back and forth twice a year. What do we think of this?
What a world. What am I going to do with that extra nap?
Well,
time is a construct.
Is it?
Yeah.
How so?
It's not even real. It's just a made-up thing.
Yes, but the amount of time that the sun is up and what time in the day that it is up is kind of real.
We're assigning numbers to it.
Well, we're also assigning what we want to do with that time, because there's kind of the debate, like, do we want to send our kids to school in the dark, or do we want to golf until 8 p.m.? And it's a tough choice.
I was very privileged to work with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio for 4 years, and so I am honestly so sick of hearing about daylight savings time.
It is a favorite
every
of Jim
year,
Browdy
twice
and
a
Marjorie
year.
Egan's,
I talk her about it, and I'm from Rhode Island, so that's Sheldon Whitehouse's whole thing is daylight savings time. Isn't it about farming? Doesn't it have something to do with isn't that where it comes from? Is about farming schedules?
I think that's something of a myth that it has to do with farming.
I'm sorry, I'm spreading misinformation.
I think it largely has to do with commerce. I think the interesting thing is, apparently in the 1970s, back in the 1970s, for a brief period of time, we did this once. We were in the energy crisis, and they were like, all right, we're going to do daylight saving year round, and people did not like it, and they immediately went back to it. So I think that's a little bit of a cautionary tale. I think there's a lot of people who feel like, hey, if we do this, it's going to be a great idea.
Aren't some of those people still alive? Can we round them up and do a quick little
poll?
Yeah, a little exit survey, not exit of their life, but
Oh my God, round them up. Don't we have other I know that all the stories we're talking about today are very important,
yes.
obviously, but just don't members of Congress have other things going on?
I think they do, but I think it's like you can chew gum and walk at the same time.
Theoretically,
can
right?
they? Oh.
I don't know. All right, one more headline we want to make sure people saw, and I'm going to bring this one up because I think Tori likes this one. This is this is a bit of a confusing story, by the way. So in the Philadelphia area, Philadelphia, New Jersey, series of gas stations have popped up selling Freedom Fuel. Freedom Fuel. So this is gas station that is selling gas at $3.47 a gallon. That's fair amount below what the price of gas is. $3.47. The 47 is a reference to the fact that President Trump is the 47th president. President Trump has gone out on Truth Social and said, we're behind this, we're bringing you cheap gas, but also at the same time has said we have no financial stake in this at all. This is just some guy who's doing this.
It's privately funded by billionaires.
Who knows. What do we make of the Freedom Fuel situation? About 20 gas stations, they think, although it's still a little shrouded in mystery.
It's interesting because they could have made it cheaper if it was privately funded. But this idea of having rich people, of having billionaires pay more so that everyone else has to pay less is very interesting to me. My question is, so there's somebody privately funding this. Is the payment given to, is it set up as a nonprofit? Can you write it off on your taxes? Is this ultimately going to be paid for by taxpayers?
Well, I think this sounds like the kind of story that that you could keep your eye on and follow all the way to the end. And maybe someday, months down the line, you can uncover what exactly happened here and come back and report it for us here on the Curiosity Desk.
That's a lot of how we report this presidency, and it's a lot of kind of trial and error and guesswork. And my first question was, whose fault was it that we had a war that raised the oil prices in the first place? It seems I was a little bit like I don't know what the ethics are here.
Right here, I've solved this problem I've created for you.
That's the flavor I felt from that. But I wonder if I have enough boots on the ground as a pedestrian.
We also were talking about this yesterday, and I was like, how can you be both the 45th and the 47th president? Because once you're the 45th, aren't you the 45th?
You are.
And then there's the 46th. And then you bring back the 45th.
But you're also the 47th.
No, I know, but you're the same guy that you were before.
You're the 47th person to be the president.
I know that.
No, you are the 47th.
That's what I'm saying.
President, but you're the 45th person. Well, in this case, not the 45th, because
it's like time.
I hear you. Mm-hmm. Tricky. All right, we're going to have to leave it there. In case you missed it, we've been speaking with GBH Nightside anchor Tori Bedford and freelance documentarian, Peabody Award-winning journalist CC Paschal. Thank you both.
Thank you.
For being with us. When we return, the World Cup's gone, but will the party continue in the wee small hours of the morning here? The late-night renaissance reminded us Boston hasn't always been such a sleepy town after sundown. Or has it? We'll get into that. This is the Curiosity Desk. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, the Emmy nominations are out, and The Pit leads the pack while Hack's final season is making comedy history. We'll look at the snubs, surprises, and streamers dominating the field. Plus, Madonna is back on the dance floor with Confessions 2. And the White House takes its latest shot at the Smithsonian, accusing the National Museum of American History of getting America's story wrong. We take on that and more on The Culture Show's Week in Review, today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for our programs comes from you. And Harvard Business School Baker Library, featuring an exhibit on Muriel Siebert, the first woman to buy a seat on the New York Stock Exchange, open to the public. Details at library.hbs.edu. Reach your customers wherever they are with GBH. Your brand will stand alongside trusted, mission-driven content across every platform. Explore the impact of corporate sponsorship at gbh.org/sponsorship.
are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Hurwick III. We're live at the Boston Public Library, and we are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, Boston got a major boost to its nightlife scene this summer from the World Cup. Bars and restaurants were, and through the month still are, permitted to stay open later until 3 a.m. The city's been designated open container districts. The MBTA is offering extended evening service on certain days. It is a far cry from the reputation the city has had over the last several years, or maybe even decades, of lacking a true late-night scene compared to other major cities like New York or L.A. or Chicago or New Orleans or Buffalo or Peoria. I mean, so how did we end up in this rut? Was there ever a time when Boston nightlife was fun? And more importantly, can we just let the good times roll? Here to talk about that, we are joined by two guests. Steph Solis is a reporter for Axios Boston, and Stephanie Schorow is a Boston-based author and professor of writing at Boston University. Stephanie, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So, Steph, I want to start with you. I mean, why do you think, do you think that, let me ask you this. Boston definitely has a reputation as a sleepy city at night. Do you think that is well earned?
Absolutely. I will also say, though, that it's a little uneven or inconsistent because there have been lots of late night venues, just not maybe in one place. And as some folks, including the Nightlife Czar, mentioned to me, that's a good way to think about it, I think, is that nightlife looks different in every neighborhood, even when there are huge moments like the World Cup.
Yeah. So it's sort of just uneven.
That's what I would say. And I think it also depends on who's organizing it. As folks often talk about as far as the online discourse goes, it's not even that there isn't a lot to do in Boston, it's that you have to find it. And if you're new, if you're a transplant, it takes time to make the right connections, to find the right people, follow the right Instagram pages even these days. So, and organizations come and go over the years, right? So it's just had these starts and stops, at least the last few years I've been watching this.
Well, I mean, you, as you just mentioned, you've been on this beat, for lack of a better way of saying it, for a couple of years. This is something you've really looked at. I mean, in your estimation, in your reporting and what you've seen, what are the sort of major things that are standing in the way of us having a more vibrant late night scene? Or is it that we don't want one?
I think some people don't want one. Some people do, but don't necessarily have the power to get that. Whenever there's a business that wants to stay later, like a restaurant or a bar, you have to get permission from the licensing board, you have to get certain permits, and neighborhood associations or some neighbors can stand in the way of that. There's also, of course, statute. The later last call law is a good example of what can happen when the legislature works extremely quickly, quicker than they have for most other bills. But that was filed May 1st, 2026. And we've known about this for years.
I know. I was thinking, as this was like coming down the pike, I was like, how are we waiting until this absolute last minute to figure out if we're going to do this or not? Or is that just what it takes to get things done in the legislature for a certain way of looking at it?
A little bit of both, honestly.
Both. All right. I'm going to turn to Stephanie Schorow now. And Stephanie, your big first question is, has it ever been thus? I mean, one of the things I think you hear people say, and I don't know if it's true or not, or maybe there's some truth in it, but they're like, well, you know, Boston was founded by Puritans, and that Puritan ethic has, like, filtered itself down all the way through to today, and that's why we don't know how to party. That's why we can't hang out at night. But you are somebody who knows local history as well as anybody I know. Has it always been this way?
It certainly has not.
That's what I'm talking
Let me
about.
quote the famous Cotton Mather, who was a famous Puritan minister. In 1675, he complained that every other house in Boston was a tavern. So, no, it hasn't not always been thus. The other thing was that there was a period when Boston had what they called the Conga Belt.
The Conga
Belt with a series of nightclubs, and they included places like the Mayfair, the Hi-Hat, Brown Derby, Casa Mañana, and the Latin Quarter. The Latin Quarter was founded by Lou Walters. You may have known his daughter, Barbara Walters.
Wow.
But before that, the difficulty with that period was it was very popular. It was a whole group of nightclubs.
And where in town was it?
This was in the theater district and the South End and all over. And even over in South Boston, there was a place called Blindstrub's, which was a nightclub. Because you don't think about South Boston as having a nightclub.
Yeah.
But these nightclubs, the thing about them, this was an era before television.
Yep.
There was movies, there was radio. Everybody went to these clubs. It wasn't just young people. It was families, it was couples, it was soldiers, sailors. Some of them were licensed as restaurants, not clubs. So you had 15, 16-year-olds with their family. The reason that there was a kibosh put on that is because of the club called the Coconut Grove. And the Coconut Grove burned down in 1942, a horrible loss of life. 490 people died, and that kind of put a damper on the whole nightclub scene in Boston, and that continued on for a long time. But there were other things that we can talk about as well.
Yeah, well, speaking of other things, I mean, you're talking about a time period up until the Coconut Grove fire was in
1942.
42. So when I hear stories, like of, back in the day in Boston, two places always come up that I hear about. One is a neighborhood called Scully Square. Now, Scully Square is where City Hall is now, Government Center. That it's a neighborhood that essentially was wiped out so that we could, have what we have today. The other one is an area of town called the Combat Zone. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about Scully Square and the Combat Zone, because when I hear these stories, I'm like, man, this town sounds like they really used to party.
They were partying in Scully Square. In fact, people said more people went to the Old Howard than visited the Constitution or the other landmarks of Boston, because the Old Howard was the burlesque place in Scully Square. And a lot of soldiers and sailors hung out there. It was happening. A lot of Harvard students went there. Harvard students had their own personal burlesque stars that they followed. However, in the early 1960s, it was torn down because it was too naughty and they wanted to put in the City Hall. What happened was that just a few blocks away, the Combat Zone emerged. And this was something that I think people would be very astonished to know was in Boston. This was the X-rated playground for the city.
Paint us a picture of the Combat Zone.
So you walk down the on Washington Street, right in the heart of the city. This is not off in a corner. Right now, you're on your way to Filene's or Jordan's. You're walking to Washington Street, and on one hand you see the Naked Eye, which is a strip club. You see the Intermission Lounge, another one. You see, I hope I can say this on the air. You see the Pussycat Lounge, the Pussycat Cinema, and the Pussycat Stag Bar.
Wow.
All there.
A whole empire.
It was an empire. It was about 35 X-rated businesses, all in this very concentrated. 35 different kinds of business. There were peep shows, dirty movie theaters, bookstores, other things like that. Wild. This was, and the thing about the Combat Zone is that it was an economic boost to the city because you had conventioners coming in and they wanted to go to something late night. A lot of people would go to the Combat Zone after the other bars closed down because they stayed open till 2 o'clock, and then, depends who was watching, might even stay open later.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk. We're talking with Axios Boston reporter Steph Solis and BU professor Stephanie Schorow about the history and the current state of Boston's nightlife scene. Well, Steph, let's take it into today. I mean, you mentioned conversations that you've had with Boston's nightlife czar. It seems like at least to a certain extent there has been. I mean, the fact that we have a nightlife czar suggests that there's some interest in saying, like, okay, we sort of realize we have this reputation right now as a sleepy city. What's being done? What can be done? What's really standing in the way right now? And then, Stephanie, I want to talk a little bit about how we got from there to here. But, Steph, you go first.
So the nightlife czar has been around for 3 or so years now.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of pilots or short-term initiatives so far, some that have turned permanent. So you have teen nightlife events that started about a year or two ago. They're back this year. I think they were just announced today, and they're coming up according to Mayor Wu's office. There's been a late-night food trucks pilot that has also gone permanent. It's folded into the overall food trucks program this year, and that gives businesses across the city, some new ones, some with existing brick and mortars, a chance to deliver late-night food service. So I'm talking about until 2 or 3 a.m., depending on the neighborhood. And that includes some Dorchester and Roxbury-based businesses that then start serving customers around 10 or 11 p.m., anywhere from Northeastern to, let's say, Faneuil Hall. And there have been initiatives like that, but this still, so far, looks to be sort of the beginning stages, because that is a good start. But I think one of the biggest takeaways, and basically what I've heard from business owners, is that there needs to be a cultural shift. And I think the Nightlife Czar, when we spoke, acknowledged that and has sort of spoken to that. And we saw people actually crowding around, taking advantage of the social consumption districts this month. But when there wasn't a match day and there wasn't like a downtown business alliance event, that wasn't necessarily happening. People definitely took advantage of the later hours and drank and went to venues until 2 or 3 a.m., but it wasn't every single night that people were taking advantage of the social consumption districts. And it's the type of thing where if the tea doesn't run past 1 o'clock, there's not going to be a lot of interest. And there was only one night, I think it was the June 13th match between Scotland and Haiti, where the tea extended. Exactly.
Well, talk about, I mean, the cultural shift thing is a really interesting, I mean, first of all, there's the chicken and egg argument, but then, Stephanie, I turn to you and ask, I mean, if you talk about, you know, this is, presumably, I mean, it's obviously different people now, but it's the same city that had the combat district, the same city that had Scully Square. What happened to the culture that it did shift?
Well, I see that Boston has always had a tension between its Puritan roots in terms of controlling behavior and giving license for people to do what they want. And so you saw I've seen push-pull in researching my book on drinking, for example. There was a push-pull in terms of restrictions, then opening up, and then, okay, we're too restrained, and then opening up. And you saw that. The combat zone, for example, there were a lot of efforts to get rid of that, and it took them until the late 1980s to really get rid of that, because there was a demand for that kind of entertainment, late-night entertainment. So it kind of went back and forth. For example, speakeasies now are kind of popular. You see that or pseudo. But there was a kind of speakeasy called the Pioneer Club in the 1950s, 1950, 1974, which was primarily an African-American hangout. But a lot of different people went there. And that closed about 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And people would go there in the middle of the night, and you had jazz musicians hanging out there and other musicians hanging out there.
This is what I'm talking about. This is the city I want to be in.
Yes, if I would have loved to go to the Pioneer Club. Unfortunately, the city came down to them and forced them to close at 2 a.m., and that killed it.
Gotcha.
So it's been this back and forth between let's let freedom ring, and we don't want too much drinking. You know, we're a city without a happy hour, for example. We're not allowed to have happy hours.
Since 84, I think it was?
1984.
When the happy hour went away. Yeah, I wonder about that. To me, the one thing I always wonder about, and I wonder you both just kind of weigh in on this, how much of this do you think really comes down to economics, which is to say, very simply, it is a very expensive place to live. Boston, the Boston area, we know is a very expensive place to live. We know the cost of doing business is very expensive. Does it, like, just the fact that it is expensive around here, does that play a piece in this at all, or do you think not? I mean, LA is expensive, New York's expensive, but I don't know. I always wonder about just the cost of things.
It definitely had a role in the combat zone, because the combat zone emerged in a time when Boston was in an economic downturn.
Yeah.
So nobody wanted to be downtown. It wasn't for the X-rated businesses, there'd be nothing coming in. And then as the city started to merge and there was more development, those businesses were priced out and they disappeared. There's also technological things like the VCR, which we don't have anymore. But at that time, that ruined the porn business because you could just do it at home. I also think that there is a reaction against texting and social media I think a lot of people are a little tired of that. They want to be somewhere.
Yeah.
They want to be in
Physical
a place.
Experiences. Yeah.
Yes. There was a book called The Great Good Place, which talked about this third place that you could go to.
Yeah.
And I sense people want to do that. That's why people hang out in cafes, and it may be why they want to stay later in bars as well.
Yeah, as far as the present, I think it's twofold. I think some of it is the economy, and some of it is you have some bars, restaurants, bookstores where staff is limited, time is limited, it costs money to keep the lights on longer, and you have to have that guarantee that customers are going to come in and spend money. And if they don't, you're just keeping the lights on and staying late for no reason. At the same time, though, that's happened by design or a combination of factors over the years. And so you have people who want to stay out, but they don't want to spend a ton of money or have to go out buying $50, $60 tickets and then food and drinks just to stay at the one or two places that are open late and marketing some sort of curated experience. It's a lack of options across the board, I think. And a few exist, but they're not always consistent enough and inclusive enough or diverse enough,
Yeah. All right. Well, we've been speaking with Axios Boston reporter Steph Solis and Boston-based author and BU professor Stephanie Schorow about nightlife, culture, and history here in Boston. Thank you both.
Thank you.
When we return, for a lot of us, cooking is hard enough as it is, managing all the ingredients, following the recipe, making sure you don't burn your kitchen down. But maybe our eyes are blinding us to how simple it can be. Up next, we meet Chef Rick from Unseen Cuisine about cooking with your ears, your nose, and more. It's the Curiosity Desk. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Arun Roth. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, this week's Joy Beat celebrates one nonprofit's work promoting equitable access to Boston's waterfront.
Being on the water is one of the best things I've ever done in my whole life.
That story and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and from Cambridge School of Culinary Arts.
Through our sponsorship, we're able to participate in such events as the GBH Food and Wine Festival.
Sean Leonard, Executive Director.
A great event that puts Cambridge Culinary in front of the listeners and is really great affirmation that we're hitting the right notes and reaching our community through GBH.
To learn more, visit gbh.org/sponsorship.
You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're at the Boston Public Library live, and we're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Our next guest spent years as a professional chef and nutrition practitioner before a tragic accident rendered him blind. His return to the kitchen after years of hardship was the basis and inspiration for Unseen Cuisine, a one-stop shop of podcasts, cooking guides, and lessons for both the blind and sighted, and how to find your rhythm in the kitchen by making the most of those other four senses: our hearing, our smell, our touch, and yes, of course, taste. The whole project is a reminder that all that fancy kitchen gadgetry comes in second to an innate understanding of what the food that we cook is telling us. With us now via Zoom is Chef Rick. Rick is the founder and the voice behind Unseen Cuisine and the culinary cockpit cooking method. He's got a new manual out. He's got online lessons, podcasts, the whole ball of wax. unseencuisine.com for information on all of that. Chef Rick, it's great to meet you. Welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's jump right into this. I want to talk about, just a little bit. I know you can't give away all your secrets, but a little bit about how we might use some of these other senses in the kitchen. Can we talk about sound? If I'm trying to cook using sound, how do I do that?
Well, you got to listen for the transformation where it goes from wet to dry, and it all depending on what particular item that you're cooking. Like with onions always go in wet, and then as it transforms, it starts to dry out, and it starts to talk to you. And when you think about sound in the kitchen, Everything in your kitchen makes a sound, from the refrigerator to the stove to where you stand in. And even, you cutting onions, you cutting tomatoes, everything has a sound that we need to tune into.
So let's continue down this path and talk about smell. I mean, obviously, smell is a big part of cooking. It's a big part of eating. It's a big part of, taste. But, what should my kitchen smell like?
All depending on, hopefully clean. But when your kitchen should smell like you're ready to start cooking. Sometimes some kitchens hold smells from, say, lunch or breakfast, and you know that a good meal was a good meal, or maybe not so good meal was cooked there. But your kitchen should smell clean and ready to go for you.
And then when you are cooking, I mean, as you're cooking, just hearing you describe the fact that the sound, say, of onions or a steak is going to change through the process of its cooking. Does the same thing happen with the smell of the food as it's going from, kind of one thing to another, or it's transforming? Can you smell that and smell the difference?
Oh, yes. You can smell when your steak is caramelizing, and then where it goes from a raw state to a cooked state. You can also smell, your smell is better than any timer. You can smell when bacon is burning before your timer goes off. You can smell when, let's say, rice is done before your timer goes off. So you just got to pay attention to the smells and the rhythm of your kitchen.
Yeah. Chef Rick, I want to talk a little bit about your journey. I mean, you became blind later in life. I mean, what happened? How did this experience change you?
Wow, it really did change my life, because all your life you rely on your eyes, and then one day there was a chemical accident at work, and water, 200-degree water, chemicals splashed up into my face. The dishwasher broke. And from there, that was a life-changing event. At first, you really don't think about it. Splash water in your face and in your eyes. You go to the eye wash station. But then over the course of a month, it went from vision to no vision. And it really changed my life in a lot of different ways.
Wow. Now you were already a chef when this happened. You had all these cooking skills. Were you cooking this way before, or is this something that after the fact you said, well, wait a minute, I still love cooking. I'm gonna keep cooking, and I got to figure out a way to do it.
Well, besides what you just said, I also have a severe dairy allergy. And I can't just trust anybody to cook my meals. So, I had to forgive myself, and I had to get back in the kitchen and say that if I did it once with sight, I could do it again without sight. Even though it'll take a little longer, I still got to get in there and put in work to make myself meals, to make sure that I'm fed and make sure that I can teach this to everybody else.
When did you start to get the idea to be like, wait a minute, I could teach this to everybody else? Everybody can cook it this way.
After I started getting a handle on it and developing a system. At first it was hard because, you got to forgive yourself, knocking over water, throwing salt on stuff that doesn't really need salt, or mixing up the sugar and salt. So after I developed the system, the culinary cockpit, I said, this is something that can be taught to everybody else who lost their vision, losing their vision, or people who are scared to go in the kitchen or want to up their game. So it's for sighted and people who have lost their vision.
So tell us at least a little bit more about this method, the culinary cockpit, which is an awesome title, by the way, nicely done there. But what is the culinary cockpit? What's it all about?
Well, what it's all about is taking control of your kitchen and also having spatial awareness, and also running your kitchen with your other senses besides sight. You don't never see a pilot go into their cockpit and just start, pressing buttons and, don't know where to start the engines. And I took that premise into the kitchen. When you go into the kitchen, it's your cockpit. You should know where everything goes and how the rhythm of your kitchen should flow. You should never be guessing. You should never be trying to overextend for something that can be right there as soon as you step in your kitchen.
One of the things you touched on when you were saying who this is for, you mentioned, this is for people who don't have sight, this people do have sight. And then you said an important one, which I think a lot of people experience, which is people who are kind of afraid to start cooking, afraid to get into the kitchen. Why do you think so many people are intimidated by cooking?
Because I think that they don't understand the rhythm of the kitchen. And when you're new to kitchen, you don't want to burn things, and then you don't want people to criticize you for if you're serving them the burnt food or the food that's not really cooked, or you have some kind of kitchen disaster. Some people might, get burnt by boiling water, get burnt by the flame, or they might drop something that they need, and they're just scared to get in there because it could be really intimidating if you don't have the correct rhythm.
All right, so you have said rhythm probably 6 times here. You said rhythm in the kitchen. Describe to me, I want to know more. What is the rhythm of the kitchen? What does that mean?
The rhythm is it's you and how you flow through the kitchen. There's one section in the culinary cockpit that goes into rhythm and flow. So you walk into the kitchen after you've done your spatial awareness, you smelt your kitchen, you touched everything to where it is. Now it's time to decide how you're going to cook your food, what flow you're going to do. You turn on some music to make you feel more relaxed, or you can listen to one of my podcasts on how to cook something. So you just got to find your rhythm, and once you find that rhythm, you got to flow with it. Don't fight it.
But how do you flow? I mean, no. But how do you find it? How do you flow? Like, come on, give me a little more.
It'll come to you after you've done the culinary cockpit a couple of times. Repetition after repetition, it will come to you, and then you'll be able to you go into an Airbnb, start cooking, go to your mama's house, start cooking, grandma's house, anywhere, and find your rhythm in their kitchen.
All right, so let's talk about one of the senses we haven't talked about yet is touch. And, obviously, like when you're cooking, you got to be careful with touch because if you're cooking things, they're getting hot, you don't want to get burned. Give me some ways that I could be thinking about using touch in my cooking.
Well, touch helps with understanding the doneness in your proteins. I wouldn't say put your finger in a pot of rice or anything like that, but you also got to take some responsibility of the kitchen yourself and know your parameters, your hot zone. This is hot. I got to get some tongs to pick up the chicken. I got to get some tongs to flip the steak or something. So you got to be really, really careful with touch, but touch can tell you everything. Like you don't want to have a dirty counter, then if you have a dirty counter, you might not feel where everything is at where you placed it.
Chef Rick, I was reading through some of the stuff that you have on your blog, some of the ideas, and something that really struck me is you wrote about the fact that when we're following a recipe and weighing things out and using like an LED screen to set the temperature of the oven and then using some sort of digital timer and pressing buttons, we're kind of outsourcing this thing to technology. And that you talk about hey, no. There's this innate connection between us and our food and cooking. I wonder if you could expound on that a little bit. That really struck me.
Okay, being blind, a lot of times if I don't set up the kitchen correctly with bump dots and stuff like that, I need to find my way in the kitchen. And suppose your power go out. Let's just say that. How are you going to continue to cook? You need to know how to actually cook with, let's say, a burner or something like that. So you really need to get in touch with your food. You can't just, technology is great. Technology helps us all. Technology helps me. But when I was homeless, I didn't have any technology. I had to actually learn my food. I didn't have access to anything. So this is another thing for people to think about, getting back into where if we didn't have any technology or you run out of batteries or your lights go off, are you still able to cook a meal?
All right. Real quick, tell us about the new book.
All right, the new book is called The Culinary Cockpit Manual. It goes along with, it's an immersive 336-page book that goes through the whole cockpit system. And then it also is paired with a workbook that goes with the Culinary Cockpit Foundations class that's coming up, where it's a 6 weeks class. So with those things together, that's the ecosystem for the Unseen Cuisine Culinary Cockpit. But the manual you could get by yourself. It has pictures. It comes in ebooks. So it's very useful for everybody.
All right. We've been speaking with Chef Rick, creator of the Culinary Cockpit, host of the podcast Unseen Cuisine. Check out the new Culinary Cockpit cooking guide. Chef Rick, thanks so much for being with us.
All right, thank you.
And that about does it for us. For now, the Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, and Hannah Loss. Our intern is Mukta Dharmaporakar. An enormous thanks and a send-off today to our producer, Nicole Garcia, who bids us adieu. Nicole, it's been great. We're going to miss you. Patty Daniels and Jamie Bologna make sure we always make it to Friday. Our engineer, John LaClaw Parker. Special thanks to Andrew Massow, Matty Geyer, Bill Francis, and Patrick Lawley. Thanks to our hosts at the Newsfeed Cafe, the security team, Darius and Derek, the best, and the fabulous team at the Lennox across the street. Thanks to everybody who came out to see us at the library. We love to see you. We'll be right back on Monday. Until then, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show. Next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Boston Speaker Series, announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings, featuring Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, historian Doris Kearns-Goodwin, and financial journalist Andrew Ross Sorkin. BostonSpeakers.org.
Take a journey into our country's heartland and learn about the culturally diverse stories and traditions hidden in rural and small-town America. Catch America the Bountiful, Sunday at noon on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Culture Show news desk, I'm Henry Santoro. If you had a good time when Scotland's Tartan Army was in town, wait until thousands of sailors from all over the world disembark from their tall ships this weekend and start exploring Boston. Sail Boston 2026 is here, and for the 5th time since 1992, the public can watch the parade of sail and board ships for free. Organizers expect some 4 million people to take advantage of the spectacle that just happens to coincide with America's 250th birthday celebrations. Boston is the last stop on the Sail 250 tour.
Everybody, listen to me and return me my ship. I'm your captain, I'm your captain. Though I'm
more than 60 ships from 20 countries are participating.
I've been lost now, days uncounted, and it's months since I've seen home. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Or am I all alone?
Saturday's Parade of Sail kicks off at 9 a.m. and the USS Constitution, known as Old Ironsides, will lead the ships into Boston Harbor for the first of the tall ships, expected to pass by Castle Island around 10 a.m. The ships will then make their way to their docking berths around 3 p.m. with public boarding starting around 4. These ships and their crew will be in Boston until July 16th before setting sail to their homeland. A complete list of locations and times can be found at the Sail Boston website. It's a tremendous event, one you should really give a ship about. And that's this edition of the GBH News Weekly Friday Afternoon Culture Cast. I'm Henry Santoro. Next up, The Culture Show, with my friend and yours, Captain Jared Bowen, live at the Boston Public Library.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, the Emmy nominations are out with great vital signs for The Pit. The medical drama leads with 25 nominations, while Hack's final season makes comedy history with 24. Plus, TV newcomers Widow's Bay and Pluribus are a win for offbeat, dark comedies. And Colbert's Last Laugh may end up being showered in gold. We'll go over the snubs, snoozers, and surprises. From there, it's White House washing history. President Trump's latest shot at the Smithsonian is a July 4th report accusing the National Museum of American History of getting America's story wrong by portraying the nation's past as a narrative of conflict, oppression, and grievance rather than patriotism and progress. Then, bases are loaded. The Boston Hunters, the region's new women's pro baseball team, steps up to the plate on August 1st with the launch of the Women's Pro Baseball League. A crack of the bat reminder that Boston's baseball story is in a league of its own. Speaking of a league of their own, Madonna is back on the dance floor with Confessions 2. a nostalgia-charged comeback album of disco pulse, club pop, and late-night euphoria. We take on that and more right now on our Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Welcome to The Culture Show, live on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. And coming to you from our studio at the Boston Public Library, I'm Jared Bowen.
I'm Joyce Kulhawick.
And I'm James Sullivan.
We're going over the latest arts and culture headlines in our Week in Review, starting with the Emmy nominations announced this week. The Pit led the field, Hacks made comedy history, and a strong class of first-year series, including Pluribus and the Massachusetts-made Widow's Bay, scored numerous nominations. I felt so proud. I had seen so many of these nominations, which I hadn't in past years necessarily, but this is a really good crop. And it's great to see these new shows collecting all of these nominations. I'm not even sure where to dive in. Maybe with The Pit, which a lot of people were very excited about last year. Last year it only got about half the nominations. This year it had 25.
Yeah.
People are all in for this medical drama.
I love The Pit. I loved it since it first came out. And it's actually helped put HBO Max sort of over the top. Not that a lot of people care where things stream. I barely know where anything is streaming. You know, it's like, I don't know, one of those shows. But 25 nominations. That's 122 for HBO Max, beating out Netflix for 111 nominations. And The Pit just remains an extraordinary piece of work. We've seen medical dramas before, but this is operating at a much higher level.
Well, James, before you come in, let's listen to a little bit of The Pit, because I think part of the reason that this show is resonating is because it's so of the moment, and it's speaking to what people are experiencing if they go into their own emergency rooms or even think about having to go there and why they may not go there, as this will show us. Here's a scene in which a patient's health is failing due to the high price of insulin, which forced him to ration his doses. Then when he learns what the hospital stay will cost, he flees, which doesn't deter his doctors.
My patient, he didn't have any insurance, and he was already in a mountain of medical debt. He couldn't afford any of his meds.
What's in the bag?
Insulin, test strips, electrolyte powder. I got him everything he needed for home care.
So Uber to his house.
Is the hospital going to pay for that?
I'll pay for it.
Not only urgent subject matter, but a great ensemble, too.
I mean, I think that every episode that they do relies on very much of the moment issues that we're all facing. I rely on my wife's expertise on scripted TV shows. I don't understand how some of you folks out there get an opportunity to watch so many scripted TV shows. But Joyce, you mentioned the numbers, HBO Max with 122 awards, Apple TV with 89. So bringing up the rear, but, you know, kind of catching up quickly, which is pretty impressive because just a few years ago, there weren't really a whole lot of options on Apple
Isn't
TV.
Widow's Bay?
I was just going to say, we're like-minded people here.
Yeah.
As we're talking about Apple, this is a perfect time to talk about Widow's Bay, which is especially fun for us to talk about here in Massachusetts because it was shot in Gloucester, it was shot in Rockport, and it was shot in Worcester. And this is all about, I don't want to spoil too much. I only began, James, to your point, because I didn't get to see this earlier, began watching it last night.
Me too!
It is also a great ensemble led by Matthew Rhys, who's the mayor of an island that's a little, we don't know quite where it is.
It's a fictional island.
But the fog rolls in, bringing lots of difficulties, lots of spirits, it seems. But he's striving to bring tourism here. He's striving to be the next Martha's Vineyard. Here's a scene from Widow's Bay in which Mayor Tom Loftus, again played by Matthew Rhys, poses a moral dilemma to his elderly assistant Ruth, played by Kay Callan.
Imagine there's a runaway trolley and it's barreling down the tracks and it's going to plow through a big crowd of people. Now there's a lever that you can pull that'll divert it to a different track where it will only hit one person. Would you pull the lever?
Oh, I get it. And then all those people would be saved.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't pull the lever.
But you'd have to.
So I don't have a choice, then what's the question?
No, I mean, yes, you have a choice.
Well, I wouldn't pull it.
How could you not pull it?
The runaway trolley is life. The lever's me. You can't control the bad things that happen in life, Tom. But if I pull that lever, it's a choice. And I'm choosing to kill that person. I could never do that.
So this is such dry, deadpan comedy while also being a thriller, and it picked up 19 nominations.
Yeah,
in its first year.
Horror, comedy, thriller. And it is really sly humor. And this Matthew Rhys is fantastic. I mean, he just straddles this line between being really jittery and kind of a creep. I mean, he's really kind of an a-hole, this guy. Well, Jim and Marjorie say that all the time, so I'm going there. But then this is the culture show. Sorry. But yeah, that's who he is. So you're kind of rooting for him, but kind of not. And he's, he's always off the rails. The show is extremely well written, and he actually has made history as the first male actor in over 3 decades to earn 2 leading actor nominations in the same year for Widow's Bay, and then The Beast in Me, which I know nothing about.
That was very, very intense. In fact, I think we often see Matthew Rhys with these intense characters and intense dramas. Think of The Americans and Sisters and Brothers. I've never really seen him go the comedy route like this.
Mm-hmm. Do we want to talk about other shows? The Bear? I mean, we should
talk about
Bear,
anything
right?
you want. That's the joy of the culture show. Which I will say,
have you seen?
Before you get into this, I dropped out of The Bear, and now I don't feel so bad because it didn't get the Emmy love it has in past seasons.
It didn't get the Emmy love, but I think that folks who have stuck with the show, including my wife, and I have actually stuck with the show, it's picked up extraordinarily in this past. So maybe they didn't get the numbers of nominations this year. But the current season is pretty fantastic.
The current season is great, but it's season 4 that's been Emmy nominated. But I just binged season 5, which is fantastic, and features an episode that it almost rivals Fishes, that Christmas Eve extravaganza, which looms as one of the most incredible episodes of TV ever.
Any scripted TV,
and so there's an episode like that in season 5. But Io Edaberry is nominated again. And
Boston Zone.
Yeah, Boston Zone. And she even gets to finish a sentence without pausing before the end of an episode. It's one of these little actorly tics that she has, which drives me crazy. But she's better in the current season. So don't give up on it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, maybe I'll have to come back to it. Well, a lot of people do an eye roll that The Bear is in the comedy category when you find episodes like The Feast of the Seven Fishes, which is so stressful, so I don't know that I want to see the one you're talking about. But what is clearly a comedy is Hacks. And this is a great story for this show this year with 24 nominations. If people haven't seen this show, this is where Jean Smart plays a comedian who... she's toward the end of her career, and she just has to keep fighting and fighting and fighting, like most people in the business do, to keep herself going. There's an element of Joan Rivers here because she's doing stand-up. She's over the seasons. She's done QVC. She's had her own late-night show. And this is the 5th and final season, and she's dealing with mortality here. Before we start talking about this show, which, again, got 24 nominations, including for Jean Smart, who might help make a record here by winning every year that she's been nominated, this is a clip from the final season when Deborah, played by Smart, and Ava, played by Hannah Einbender, riff on mortality.
I guess the best part of dying for a person with disordered eating is having a second croissant.
Actually, the best part of dying is not having to save receipts because you know you will never get audited again.
Actually, I think the best part of dying is knowing how pissed people are going to be when they realize how much money you left your dogs.
But the worst part of dying is that I don't get to see how my corgis decide to spend that $550,000.
Jean Smart, she is just so terrific in this show, and they're all... Julia Louis-Dreyfus won almost every year Veep except for the last. Cloris Leachman, very winning, and then Jean Smart might end up with a sweep.
And I was thinking about what it is about the shows that really make it. What is it? I mean, they're extremely well written, beautifully acted, but they also seem to blend genres. And they appeal to a variety of demographics. Like Jean Smart obviously is an older woman who's triumphing over the system, who wants to keep her down. But then she's got that incredible, deep, and profound relationship with her assistant, Hannah Binder, I can't remember. Bender, and pulls in all of the people who would be watching to see her, and they have lots of generational experiences together. But I was also thinking that Widow's Bay combines horror and comedy. The Bear is funny, but it's dark. These shows are like life, and they are profoundly moving and
complex, and people are getting more sophisticated about what they watch, and I think they're drawn to these shows that have truly something to say beneath the humor, which is what life is in these absurd times.
I wonder if Hacks has, gained the traction that it has in part because of that sort of younger person, older person dynamic. I think a lot of people are hungry for that.
Absolutely.
Connecting across generations and older folks wanting to mentor or take younger folks under their wing and younger folks looking to older folks for their wisdom.
And so this show actually finds us at that nexus where Jean Smart and her assistant are trying to bridge this gap, which is everyone can relate to.
Well, it's funny you say that, because in that clip I was playing of Widow's Bay, Matthew Reese and Kate Callan, there was a piece that I just started to read before coming over here. I think it was in the LA Times, where Kate Callan, who I think is about 90 years old, was saying she's having the time of her life getting this opportunity at that age. And so, yes, we are seeing this reflected. Before we leave this, we like to talk about Chris Fleming on this show. Speaking of homegrown, Chris Fleming, with Live at the Palace, won a nomination for Outstanding Writing for a Variety special. If you haven't experienced Chris's humor, here's a little taste from the HBO special in which he describes the weight of responsibility thrust upon certain wedding guests.
Leading a conga line takes discipline, vision, and restraint. You gotta go a lot slower than you think. You got a chain of dependents behind you, varying extremely in age. You got a 3-year-old twink, a groomsman relapsing, and the oldest woman in the country. You get any crazy ideas and you're gonna be looking at a conga line pileup. And that is a dark chaos.
It is so great to see Chris Fleming's rise over just the last couple of years, and grew up right here in Massachusetts, and so many of his characters are born of people he experienced in Massachusetts. We're going to have more on Chris later in the show, but yeah.
He's the nephew of my next-door neighbor, Donna,
Wow.
and John, and he's just incredible. It's a very colorful family, too.
Well, that shows.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Chris Fleming. And again, there's another reason we're talking about this, which we'll get to at the end of the show. Well, next, the White House is trying to squeeze the Smithsonian yet again. In a lengthy report issued on the 4th of July, the Trump administration accused the National Museum of American History of turning away from patriotic storytelling and toward what it calls, quote, extreme political activism. It's the latest escalation in a broader effort to force the Smithsonian into showcasing more explicitly celebratory and sanitized versions of American history. So this is, in my mind, this is what shows the power of arts and culture in this country, that it is and remains at the center of the Trump administration's crosshairs, that it does not like the messaging that the Smithsonian is presenting, which, as a group of historians reminded us over the last week as they step forward, that the version that the Smithsonian is presenting is based on fact. This isn't contrived interpretations of American history. This is based on fact. And, in fact, the Trump administration is trying to constrain and shape that vision, which is hypocritical given that that's what they're accusing the Smithsonian of.
You know what? That's the first thing I wanted to say. I wholeheartedly agree with you. They are actually imposing a vision, slanting the historical record for political purposes, which is exactly what they've accused the Smithsonian of doing. So it made me want to go back to what the purpose of the Smithsonian is. And it is to, and this comes from the last will and testament of James Smithson, who willed his entire fortune to Washington, to the United States, to establish what became the Smithsonian, to increase, quote, for the increase and diffusion of knowledge, which flies in the face of the language used in this report to slam the Smithsonian, which says that the museum's founding purpose is to foster patriotism. Not so. It's not to foster anything. It is to reveal the truth about our history. Period. The end. And this is typical for the Trump administration, to want to put in place a vision of this country which reflects their values, the values of white men over time.
And Christianity.
White
this has
Christian
been an escalation of that conversation as well.
I have a real problem with using trying to claim patriotism to be one certain thing. I mean, like the whole idea of telling history is to explain what this country is about, where we've been, where we're going, and to love the country, warts and all. So to me, patriotism is loving the country and hoping that it can live up to it, continually hoping that it can live up to its ideals. Not just telling a whitewash story of what the history was to the exclusion of lots of folks. So I've been reading about some of the particulars of the report that they issued about the complaints about the Smithsonian, and one of the notes says, well, there's an exhibit that says, in creating the new nation, early leaders envisioned a country that promised opportunity and freedom, but only for some. And the Trump administration is claiming that that's a slander of America. Well, we know about the 3/5, in the Constitution. We know that women weren't allowed to vote for 140 years after the founding. It's not a slander. It's just telling history.
Yes, and we know that they stole land from the Native Americans and just, trudged across the country and claimed it. I mean, this was what happened. And if anybody watched Ken Burns' extraordinary documentary on the revolution, we understand the complexity and the conundrum at the heart of the founding and the revolution itself, that it was flawed from the get-go, and we've been making constitutional amendments ever since to address these issues. But it is clearly a work in progress, and we haven't achieved perfection, but you have to keep the goal in mind,
Well, and the document that the Trump administration released on the 4th of July about the Smithsonian is also flooding the zone, as the administration likes to do, with factual inaccuracies, saying that there is no interest in the Museum of American History for the Founding Fathers. It's not true. They have had a whole 250 themed exhibition, multiple exhibitions and viewpoints, actually, that give you artifacts like the desk on which Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, ephemera of George Washington. So there are a whole bunch of untruths about this as well, but we can also see, given the pattern and strategy of the administration, that when it looks at the Smithsonian, and I say this here working for PBS and NPR, which lost its funding a year ago, this is an administration which seems to be also looking at the funding of the Smithsonian, because 62% of its budget comes from the federal government.
That's right.
So that is probably where this is headed as well. And then the Smithsonian, like so many other arts organizations around the country which lost their NEA, NEH funding, or CPB funding, as in our case, will be having to reconcile their finances going forward.
And I was just reading, actually, that GBH has really relied a lot on patronage from its listeners, and that, thank God, people have come to the rescue to some extent and made up some of that deficit.
The audiences, some have called are rage-giving, as they recognize the particular viewpoints that are being espoused from the administration. They want to see more balance, and I hope they appreciate what we're doing here and what the Smithsonian, what other arts organizations are doing in exercising their freedom of choice and voice are giving.
I just want to say one more thing. I don't think it's any accident that Secretary Lonnie Bunch is the Smithsonian's first historian and African American to hold this position as head of the Smithsonian since 2019. So anything that comes out from the Trump administration, an administration who claimed that Haitians were eating our pets, needs to be called into question.
Well, I think this is a moment to recognize Lonnie Bunch, because as Secretary of the Smithsonian, where a lot of people have walked away because, and understandably, they've walked away when they're in the crosshairs, because there is such a flood of hate and threats, we understand, that come to them when they get trotted out into the public sphere, and especially when they have the weight of government voices directed at them and hate directed at them. This is a man who has remained in his position, and we haven't necessarily known the fights he's had just to keep the Smithsonian going. We do know there are still references to the Trump impeachment in his portrait in the National Portrait Gallery, despite that heavy focus on changing the text around it. This is a man who has stayed on to fight, and I think in this age, that's extraordinary, and it's probably taking years off his life.
Yeah, it takes great personal courage to do this. He apparently wrote a scathing email in response to this report, insisting on the bipartisan, apolitical lens through which they do what they do. He also made the point that the Trump administration does not have the legal authority to fire any of its employees. So I don't know if they've attempted to do this yet, but clearly
Kim Say at the National Portrait Gallery director,
That's true.
Who ended up stepping down of her own accord, but in the face of immense resistance.
Extraordinary pressure. Yeah.
Well, coming up, we will talk about a new league of their own. The Boston Hunters step up to the plate as women's pro baseball returns. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
On the next In Common, how to stay safe from ticks.
It's less important what tick it is than to get the tick off of you.
Plus, we take the plunge into the Charles River.
It is a different experience to see the skylines of Boston and Cambridge as you're bobbing along in the river.
And a stroll through Brimfield's iconic Antiques Fair. It's all things outdoors on In Common. Saturday at 2 on GBH 89.7.
A free press is fundamental to a well-functioning democracy. We take that seriously at GBH News. We're here to be a trustworthy source of information. Accountable only to the public, GBH News has invested in covering stories that matter from around the world to where you are. It's community-focused and community-funded radio. But don't take this service for granted. We can't do it without you. Pitch in now at gbhnews.org.
GBH Daily is a newsletter that keeps you informed, connected, and ready to go every weekday morning. You can subscribe today and get it in your inbox at gbh.org/daily.
The Pulse of Boston. In your pocket. Get local news, stories, and live radio with the new GBH News app. Download it today on the App Store and Google Play.
Welcome back to The Culture Show. I'm Jared Bowen, live on 89.7. I'm joined by Culture Show contributors James Sullivan and Joyce Kulhaywick. James is a journalist and author specializing in popular culture and Americana. He's also on the faculty of Emerson College. Joyce is an Emmy Award-winning arts and entertainment reporter, president of the Boston Theater Critics Association, and you can find her reviews at joyceschoices.com. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes Boston sports fans who now have a new team to root for. The Boston Hunters are taking the field next month as one of the first 4 franchises in the Women's Pro Baseball League, giving women who play ball a new league of their own, which is so exciting because, of course, a league of their own was based on a true story, and that league faded out after the 1940s and the war faded out in the 1950s, but now this league is back. Boston has a team, and they start August 1st. Boston plays its first game on August 2nd.
Oh, wow. And I think this is the first league that's been formed since that league ended, the one from a league of their
50s,
own,
yeah.
from the 50s.
Yep.
So it's taken all this time for women to have their own league. So, I am not a huge sports person.
You don't say.
No. I mean, hoisting a book, there you go. Jumping to conclusions, as I love to say. There it is. But I am all for this. Women have been underplayed and underpaid, that's for sure. So that's going to be the next hurdle. But I'm thrilled about this, and I love the way they've named the teams after trailblazing women.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
The Boston Hunters are named after Harriet K. Hunt, who broke gender barriers by fighting for medical education and was a Harvard medical student, right?
Yeah.
So there's obviously been plenty of talk over the last several years about the rise of women's sports. I think it's pretty exciting that Boston is one of only 4 teams, in the inaugural teams in this league. Boston, New York, San Francisco, and LA, raises a pretty important question. How the heck are they going to manage to play each other? They're going to play the same teams over and over again, and they have to travel across the country through 3 time zones. That's pretty interesting, but we'll find out how that works out.
I think they might be playing all of them in the same stadium, the Robin Roberts Stadium in Illinois.
As a matter of fact. And it will be televised, apparently. I was wondering about that. So they are working with a broadcasting outlet named Fremantle or something to be able to So we can see this, because if they're playing and nobody sees it, then it doesn't matter. But you make an interesting point. We're going to have, obviously, more teams, more women playing sports. I think it's fantastic.
But so the Fleet, or the women's hockey team, are moving down from Lowell to Boston. So there's a real rise of interest in women playing sports professionally, and it's pretty exciting.
Well, yeah. So if we look at the success of the WNBA, that probably helped fuel this. And as you say, the Boston Fleet, which is a women's professional hockey team, which has been in Lowell for 3 seasons. They identified more of a challenging place for people to go just because they couldn't necessarily access. So that's why they're shipping down to Boston, going to Agganis Arena, which will be its primary home next season, because they have played the Agganis Arena in the past and they've sold out the majority of the games they played there. So this is this really extraordinary moment for our city, especially knowing that not every city, most of the major cities in America right now don't have these sports teams, but we're seeing it happen.
I did a little dive on just how different women's hockey is from men's hockey, because one of my gripes with men's hockey is that, it's as much about fighting as it is about, skill and precision and
I only
speed.
know what I saw in Heated Rivalry, and there wasn't very much fighting. There wasn't a lot of fighting happening there.
By the way, they were snubbed in the Emmys. Canadian outlet.
Right,
but
yes.
anyway, no, so the women's game is a little bit more, there's heavier penalties apparently for fighting. There's no gloves off fist fighting, although there's a lot of pushing and shoving, etc. And because this is so interesting, women didn't make higher salaries and they didn't have access to the same kind of health care, then had to protect their faces from like dental injuries. So now they have full cage masks and they wear those, and I guess it's makes it it's a much more civilized game, which emphasizes technique over brawling. So I'm all for that. I think that sounds great. Maybe they'll have an impact on the men's game.
Well, I coached my boys when they played basketball when they were kids, and I would often say, watch the women play, because their skills, like they practice fundamental skills much more so than boys. Boys
Excellent,
like to,
James.
yeah. So there's something to be said about that, I think, across all of the sports.
Yeah.
Girls are just, more fundamentally sound, I think. Boys
Also,
just expect to do it all themselves.
They're more easily concussed, apparently, too. So, maybe thinner skulls. But, I think it's great. Whatever.
Well, and
I think
remember,
it's great.
it always isn't just for the love of the game. Clearly, people are recognizing that there's business here, again, based on the success of the WNBA. So that's great, too, to understand.
As long as women get a slice of the pie.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, next, in the gaming world, speaking of playing, Microsoft is hitting reset. The company is cutting thousands of Xbox jobs and shedding several studios, a major reversal after years of expansion for an industry built on blockbuster franchises and constant growth. It's a sharp reminder that even gaming giants can run out of lives. So this is taking a lot of gamers by surprise to understand that Microsoft is essentially arguing that the business has gone soft here. And so they have to cut about 3,200 jobs. They've already this week cut 1,600 jobs. They say that it's not because they're bringing in AI to develop these games, but that people just aren't playing in the ways they used to, so they can't rely on the market so heavily anymore.
I had to really research this. I know nothing about gaming. My idea of a video game is the way I drive on the expressway. Honestly, for me, every car length is a victory. And so I'm weaving in and out of traffic. And I thought, this must be like what a video game is about. But apparently, of course, Microsoft, who I have, I don't care about Microsoft. They're the second most profitable company on the planet. $126 billion net profit. So my heart is not aching for them that they've lost a little business here or they're restructuring. And they're clearly restructuring to pivot to AI. But apparently PlayStation beat the pants off them. So, and I think that's because PlayStation just had a bigger global footprint and a whole bunch of things that I don't quite understand.
Well, James, before we get to you, and we'll talk about PlayStation in a moment, but here's prominent video gamer, YouTuber, Voice Critical, reacting to the Xbox layoff news, especially to the 136 job cuts affecting legendary game developer ID Software, the creators of iconic franchises like Doom and Wolfenstein.
There did need to be a reset. But I also think that they're getting a little lost in the sauce here, targeting things that I think are detrimental to the direction Xbox needs to go. They need games that people actually want. id delivers those games. Why would that be in any way something that they'd look at and be like, all right, this is a blemish here. We gotta put some cream on it. Let's clear this up. Get rid of half of the id Software team. I just don't think that's steering the ship in the right direction.
Every growth industry, gets to a reckoning point at some point. And to Joyce's point, the platform wars. If Xbox is actually losing those platform wars to PlayStation, then that makes a lot of sense that they need to regroup and reconsider what they're doing.
But they're also parting ways with studios, the studios that have developed these games, the studios that, to some measure, they acquired over the last few years. So you see this whole creative sector. You understand why they're up in arms, because Microsoft is claiming that the revenue is down, the subscription model is down, and people who are making these games are getting cut. And I wonder if it's a specious argument that AI has nothing to do with the development of these games, because it seems like, especially if you look, you don't even have to be a gamer, but if you look at movies, how many movies are being created? I think the first theater is being created out of video games. The first orchestras are now touring, or have been touring, based on video game music. This is a big industry.
Yeah, it seems to me that PlayStation got in very early, and Microsoft was not able to really catch up. And instead of addressing some fundamental issues here, they're just restructuring to cope with the loss. I mean, and I don't know why they're not creating more exciting, interesting games for people. But then PlayStation is doing something strange. Let me tell you what they're doing. As CDs have given way to streaming and DVDs have given way to downloads, now it's no consolation to the console because the PlayStation Disc is about to meet its demise. Sony says new games will go digital only beginning in 2028, continuing the slow disappearance of physical media. This, I also wonder how specious it is, because we have talked so much on this show about a return to physical materials, especially among younger generations who had to grow up without them. They grew up in a world of streaming where you could access your favorite TV show or your favorite music on streaming. The rest of us grew up with having albums or CDs or VHS, and we could go to our libraries at home and get them whenever we wanted. They want this return, and yet PlayStation is arguing, nope, it's too expensive, we've got to take it away. Yeah, and I'm thinking about the word you just used, which was libraries. You could create your own library of content, but if you have to subscribe to a digital feed, or I don't even have the lingo to really talk about this, but if you can't own the disc and the game, then you don't have it. If you have to subscribe, they can pull this back anytime. They can control it. And this has to do with the concentration of profits. Yep. This has to do with a conglomerate like Sony, a Japanese company, wanting to be able to have maximum control over their content. So that's the direction everything's headed toward. And I wish somebody would come along and break up these monopolies, because it's all getting way too centralized.
Well, it's interesting to use that word monopoly, because Sony has argued that it's not a monopoly because there was a resale market of all its games. And so it was basically in competition with itself as people were selling off their games to have money to buy the more expensive new games. But now if they're ending that market because there's nothing to sell, then they've just negated their argument by becoming the monopoly who now controls everything because there's nothing for anyone else to buy.
And that was GameStop's platform, and I've seen a few GameStop franchises closing now. Ones that you see at strip malls all the time, they're certainly not there anymore. And that was exactly what they did. Was you would sell your games back to them after you had kind of exhausted playing them, so that you could buy the latest, newest, most expensive game.
Well, and Joyce, as you mentioned, the licensing rules would change too. So suddenly your digital ownership, quote unquote, would just disappear.
There is no ownership. They own it. Yeah.
That's right. Well, coming up, John Oliver brings his British accent and deadpan stare to daytime in a soapy star turn on General Hospital. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
FIFA has a long history of corruption scandals. Current President Gianni Infantino was brought in to clean house and its reputation. But FIFA's decision to suspend a red card against Team USA, among other things, now has Infantino under intense scrutiny.
Infantino himself holds responsibility, and accountability has to go somewhere.
That's next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you and Bryant University.
We have been recognized as one of the best colleges in the nation.
Eddie Tibaldi, Vice President for Strategy and Institutional Effectiveness.
Very important for Bryant University to have a partnership with GBH because of the exposure to this very unique demographic that is not available in any other channel. And hopefully this is going to be a long-lasting partnership.
To learn more, visit gbh.org/sponsorship.
The local businesses you hear about on this station power trusted journalism and stories that strengthen our community. Join the corporate sponsors who make public media possible. Learn more at gbh.org/sponsorship.
Have a tip? Confidentially contact GBH News on the Signal app. Visit gbhnews.org/investigations to learn more. gbhnews.org/investigations.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show live on 89.7 and streaming on our GBH News YouTube channel. We're coming to you from our studio at the Boston Public Library. And if you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review. I'm joined by Culture Show contributor Joyce Kulhawick, Arts and Culture critic extraordinaire, and Culture Show contributor James Sullivan, a journalist and author. We're going over the latest headlines, which includes Bonnie Tyler, the Welsh singer with the unmistakable husky voice who turned heartache, nothing but a fool's game, into high drama. Tyler has died at age 75, leaving behind one of the great power ballads of the 1980s and the go-to soundtrack for celestial moments when the sky goes dark.
Once upon a time there was light in my life, but now there's only love in the dark. Nothing I can say, a total eclipse of the heart.
So, yeah, we had kind of this debate on the show about whether to talk about Bonnie Tyler, because a lot of people were pointing out she never had major albums. She had a few hits, but those hits were resonant. And I think it was because of this voice, which, by the way, she had nodules on her voice. That's what created, she had kind of a husky voice anyway, but it fueled it. And then when she went back in to record, the producer said, whoa, this is amazing. But her songs stay with us.
Yeah, I love this. James, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, I just saw that Rod Stewart paid tribute to her because, for obvious reasons, because she's sort of like the female Rod Stewart with the husky voice. And you know, I think a lot of people think she was a one-hit wonder. She actually was not. She had another huge hit on the Footloose soundtrack called "Holding On for a Hero," and interestingly, the one that's been stuck in my head for the last couple days, early on in her career, she was the first to record "It's a Heartache," which I actually know better by the Juice Newton version. She had the bigger hit with it. But yeah, it's a beautiful song, and that's what's been stuck in my head for the last day or so since the news broke.
It is an earworm. All this morning, that's all I could think about. That's why I added that other lyric.
I was thinking, what is that? Okay, Juice Newton. That's a blast from the past. Wow.
Exactly.
But this Bonnie Tyler, A Total Eclipse of the Heart, really got in there. I mean, it was instant that I recollected the voice, the sound, and I just watched a clip of her singing Total Eclipse of the Heart at the total eclipse that we had in 2024 with a whole crowd of people singing that too. ABC broadcast that. apparently she was about to go out touring again when she was, I guess she lapsed into a coma, or no, they
it was
put
a medically
her
induced
medically
coma.
induced coma, and she never really recovered from this surgery that they did on her.
There's got to be a chart somewhere about the most karaoke songs of all time, right? This is probably top 10.
Yeah, I would guess.
Right?
I think that fuels it. The movies in which her songs were part of the soundtrack, and all the covers that people did of her songs. This is why it was very worthy of talking about her. Again, gone too soon. Well, speaking of 80s icons, Madonna is back, where she has so often made pop history, and that is on the dance floor. With her new album, Confessions 2, she returns to the club sound of what many say is her last great record, 2005's Confessions on a Dance Floor. The new one picks her up right where the last one left off, with its rolling beat. It finds her, and this is very unusual for Madonna, looking back over her career, and for it, she sounds and feels so free.
It's dangerous with just one person. That's not a nice feeling.
I just had a vision of me driving behind Joyce on 93 listening to this song yesterday, and this is why I was zooming around you, Joyce. I was listening to this in the car yesterday. This is a fantastic album,
know what?
I think.
I was poo-pooing this, thinking, Madonna, I'm just so sick of Madonna, and she's just so precious and arrogant in so many ways, so I find her off-putting.
She hasn't touched Earth in a long time.
You're not kidding. Oh, and that face. Who is she?
Let's not
I don't
go
know.
there.
We can't. That's a whole other show. But this album is really good, and it does bring her back to what she did best out of the gate, the dance club music, and it's certainly clearly contemporary. It's electronic, disco, pop, but dance music essentially. And this one song, Danceteria, I was thinking about that name. Danceteria. That's the name of the club that played her debut record, Everybody, because the DJ there noticed it and then got the record to a recording studio, and that kind of launched her career. So she's really dipping back and accessing the past and doing what we love Madonna to do.
James, I promise we're going to let you talk, but I also, I said to the team this morning, I said we have to play Danceteria because this song is so terrific. Yeah. We have a little bit of it. Let's play it before we go to you, James. The bubbles are just washing ashore from Fire Island as we speak, and Provincetown is just coming on. I mean, she reteamed with her producer from
Stuart Price
from Confessions on a Dance Floor. This is why
who
part of the
wouldn't
reason why
just
it's so
get
great.
up and dance, right?
Well, there's a line in that song where she says everybody here is a work of art. Like, she's revisiting where she grew. She grew up there. That's where she came of age, and that was what I find it fascinating, that she's really sort of casting her dance background as a philosophy of life. It's not just about the party and the frivolous. It's not frivolous at all. It's a philosophy of life. She said something I think she said this. It's a quote that I got from Rolling Stone, where she said, "The dance floor is a ritualistic space where movement replaces language." And she's Madonna. Well, she's always has been sort of high concept, and that to me is sort of casting this album in a sort of high concept way, in an really interesting way.
Absolutely, and to pick up on this idea of communal, the dance floor, it's communal, and one of her first songs is Everybody. I mean, that is really what she's about, and it's kind of a portal, and that's a word she uses in a song called, I think, Fragile or Fragility, about going back to her own family dynamics and some personal vulnerable lyrics about that. So, so she's connecting the universal to the particular, and she's written some really good songs. I mean, ultimately, it's got to be that.
To the ephemeral, too, because this is what some people are pointing at. If we talk about her club scene with Basquiat and Keith Haring and others, all those people are gone now. Joyce, as you mentioned, there's a song on this album. It's called Fragile. It's written about her brother Christopher, who died not too long ago. While she was recording this album, we know that she was in the hospital for an extended period with a bacterial infection a couple of years ago. So that's enough to have somebody look back on their life. And as somebody, you're right, James, she would constantly infuriate fans because she would do her concerts but not want to go over any of the old material, and people wanted to hear that. But here, if you listen to this whole album, you hear La Isla Bonita, you hear references to all of so many of her songs and so many of her different eras and albums in a way that we've not heard from her before.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was hearing things, oh wait, doesn't that sound like it's a line here, it's a sample there. She, you know, when you get to a certain age, and she is of that age, you start looking at your own mortality. It's just inevitable. But she's been thoughtful about it, which I didn't know if that was possible. But really and truly, she has an artistic sensibility. She has concepts, she has ideas, and she had the artistic wherewithal to make some great music. Yeah.
Well, people should listen to it. Do it in the car. Chase Joyce down on the highway, just like I did yesterday. It's super fun to do it that way. Well, finally, John Oliver has taken his late-night act to daytime television, appearing in 3 episodes of General Hospital as the mysterious Z. After all the attention the Pit received this week, maybe Oliver will deliver a dose of awards attention to TV's other famous hospital. If you weren't home this week in the afternoon and could watch it, let's hear John Oliver as the director of a shadowy global intelligence agency during his 3-episode stint on General Hospital.
I have spent the whole night praying that she was going to be okay, and I can't even get into her room to check on her because your agents won't let me.
An oversight. I'll have your name added to the list of approved visitors.
I don't want to be added to the list. I want my daughter back.
Then let me put this in language that you will understand. That ain't gonna happen.
That's worth the whole thing, isn't it?
This was really fun to watch, but also because he and the cast were very earnest and took this seriously.
Well, I was shocked at what a good actor he is. And I started thinking about how he delivers what he delivers on the air. He's got this perfect comic timing, and he's always just a little bit over the top, which is perfect for a soap opera, and he absolutely dead on commits. And then he insisted that his character have a crazy name or a silly name, and that there be a slap involved. And so he got what he wished for. He pitched this role, and he got it, and he can really act without pulling you out. I mean, I bought him as the global spy with the black hair that he was, you know.
To go back to the Emmys, his show is nominated for the Variety Show Emmy against a lot of competition. Colbert, I don't think we talked about this. Kimmel, right. And The Daily Show, and SNL is the last one. But I mean, they're all worthy. I think John Oliver's show itself is actually one of the best. We we have talked for years about how The Daily Show has given a certain type of viewer its only dose of the new, or was doing that for years, its only dose of the real news. And Oliver's show obviously goes a lot deeper on certain issues, but he's kind of a comic genius.
Well, I think this also brings us back to an appreciation of soap operas, which I've always had, because if you look at some of the people, the person, I'll name drop a little bit, I was just doing an onstage interview once with Bryan Cranston, who spent a lot of time talking about how the soaps prepared him for this job. We were talking this morning in our show meeting about how seriously the other actors on the soaps were taking it, and they were probably looking at him thinking, yeah, you have no idea how hard we work. All of the lines that we're ingesting on a daily basis, the work ethic we have, that is rigorous work being on a soap opera.
John Oliver talked about this. He talked about being on the set just to do this a 3-day arc. He said they go through 100 pages a day. Sometimes he said what they are able to produce, how they move. He said, don't let anybody at his network find out how quickly this can be done, how fast you can make television, because he'd be out of a job. But he said it was extraordinary and had enormous amount of respect for these actors. I always loved the soaps because they would take a storyline and follow it through to every kind of minute detail of character and development and the repercussions and the interaction, and then it gets so crazy. I mean, here we've got a global spy somehow mixed up in the inner workings of a hospital, so.
Well, I was also reminded, remember, Elizabeth Taylor loved the soaps so much that she also called General, he didn't call them directly. Apparently he talked about it on his show, how much he'd love to do a soap. And so if one of the showrunners wanted to reach out to him, he'd happily pay for his own travel and go and do it. But Elizabeth Taylor reached out to General Hospital and said, please, can I be on your show? And she was part of Luke and Laura's wedding.
That's right. That was in 1981. James Franco also was was in General Hospital, and also John Legend was on General Hospital. He performed a song for characters Lulu and Dustin at the iconic Port Charles Nurses Ball. So there you go. You know,
Well-
people just, I want to be on a soap.
Do you know what I want to do?
What?
If the Price is Right is listening, all I want to do is spin the wheel. I don't want to be on the show. I just want to come to your studio and spin the wheel.
Would you turn letters on?
No, that's Wheel of Fortune.
No, I know. Would you do that?
Oh, I would
that
do
be-
that.
No,
I would.
no.
I would be Vanna. Yeah, I would
No,
do that.
that's number 2. I just want to spin the wheel. That's all I want to do in life. That's all that's left for me.
We'll see if we can work that out, Jerry.
Madonna's done her look back. I just need to spin the wheel. All right, well, now it's time for our weekend preview with a roundup of our recommendations for upcoming arts and culture happenings. Joyce, what's yours?
Well, it's this little-known event that I hope nobody misses or overlooks. The Tall Ships.
The what?
The Tall Ships are coming to town. They're tall and they're ships and they're sailing, but no kidding, this is going to be magnificent. July 11th through Thursday, July 16th. The ships are primarily going to be docked at the seaport. There's going to be a huge parade of sail. The main event happens on July 11th is this international fleet of 50 tall ships and vessels from 21 nations are visiting Boston Harbor, including our own USS Constitution, which is the world's oldest commissioned warship still afloat. And there are going to be celebrations. It's free public access. You can get on these boats. You can tour these boats. So it's going to be magnificent. Bring the family. It's free. It's gorgeous. It's living history. It's the Tall Ships.
And the
There you
USS
go.
Constitution gets to lead.
Yeah, I
beautiful.
love this. I love this.
James Sullivan, was yours?
So we already mentioned Chris Fleming on the show earlier, but he actually coincidentally has a number of shows scheduled for the Wilbur in the upcoming days. Stowe Mass's own, and one of the brightest lights of the contemporary comedy scene, Chris Fleming.
And he's always very energetic, always draws in the audience.
He's
makes for a
so
great show.
unusual. There's no describing Chris Fleming. I mean, he's a one-off, and he absorbs every demographic you could possibly imagine. Right.
Well, mine is going to another seat. This is Cape Ann Museum, which has just reopened after being closed for more than a year because they were having a major renovation and restoration effort underway there. And now they are opening with an absolute blockbuster show. It's called Avery Gottlieb in Rothko by the Sea. I had the fortune of seeing it just before it opened, and the art world has always known that Milton Avery, Adolph Gottlieb, and Mark Rothko were friends in New York, and Milton Avery was the mentor who really brought along these younger, eager men behind him. He was 18 years older. Rothko and Gottlieb were the same age. But what has never been examined is how they left New York for successive summers in the 1930s and 40s and painted on Cape Ann. They sketched and painted. They would go out in the morning together. They would look at the same things and then come back and talk about it, just like one does on a holiday. You go out and swim, go to the beach, and then you come back, and over dinner and wine and lobster, you have a conversation about what you did that day, what you saw. And we can see in this show that's curated by Eliza Rathbone how they shared, but yet they went off in very distinct and different directions. And that's one of the great beauties of this show, is that Gottlieb ventured into surrealism. Milton Avery stayed with his spare scenes, although they would get more and more spare. And then, of course, we know what Rothko became. He was depicting figures in realism to some degree, but then those giant studies in color, those luminous studies in color, that and you'll find some of those great paintings there. I think this is a show that is probably going to sell out very quickly. It's opened on June 30th, and it's up through September 27th.
Oh, wow.
I would highly recommend you can get there because 40% of the works have never been shown before, so it's a great opportunity. And of course, people will go anywhere to see these massive Rothko canvases.
And it's going to be a great weekend to go anywhere.
Yes,
go
exactly.
anywhere and see the tall ships.
And then go have a lobster roll.
Oh, sailboston.com. I forgot to give that out if you need a schedule of where they're going to be and when.
That's very helpful. Well, that is all for this edition of The Culture Show. Thanks to our contributors, Joyce Kulhawick, an Emmy Award-winning arts and entertainment reporter, president of the Boston Theater Theater Critics Association, and you can find, as we mentioned, her reviews on joyceschoices.com. And James Sullivan, a journalist and author specializing in popular culture and Americana. He's also on the faculty of Emerson College. Tune in Monday for Grammy-winning dramatic soprano Jane Eaglin on what it takes to find the next opera superstar. Plus, this is such an interesting story. Shakespeare scholar Caroline Bix got the gig of a lifetime. She spent a year in Stephen King's home and archives, coming to understand the methods to his fictional madness, and reports on what she found, including alternate endings to stories that we have long held in our hearts and minds. It's a revelation. A programming note, we'll be here our next Wednesday watch party is on July 29th. That's when we'll revisit the 1991 summer blockbuster Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Thanks today to Henry Santoro for curating our Culture Cast. Our engineer today is Michaela Varela. Our interns are Katie McCabe and Adina Velasquez. Thanks today to Juan Jose Cadena, Patrick Lally, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Eddie Hickey, and Sai Patel. And as always, the Lennox Hotel, the Newsfeed Cafe. Thank you to everyone who came down here to be with us today. We love seeing you. I'm Jared Bowen. Have an art-filled weekend.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's art and culture programming.
Where's Mary? Where is she? Where is she? She's just about to close up the library!